makes it really weird because it's normally lit up. It's not lit up tonight. But if you give me a can of petrol, I'll box it up. Isn't it fascinating what's going on today as well? We're popeless. Hopeless. The Roman Catholic Church is in disarray. Yeah, it's quite weird what's going on. It really is. It's fascinating as well to watch it because we're going to watch this manifest and unfold over the next few months. And the weirdest thing is that a number of years ago, probably 2, maybe 3 years ago, I was talking about these subjects with friends of mine, my close mates. We were talking about what could happen, and I was suggesting to them that certain things could happen, and they're saying, well, how do you know this? How can you predict what's going to happen? I said, well, it's quite easy because history repeats itself. And it really does. Every 100 years, it normally comes round to the start. There's what? Who what?
Run us down.
Is it? Oh, I don't know about that. Sound like the devil. Yeah. Don't you bet your arse on it, So we're discussing these subjects, and what we're discussing is, you know, a system built on what it's built on, imploding. You know, a system built on greed where, like a fire, you light a fire, it'll consume everything around it till there's nothing more to consume. Then it consumes itself. And that's what we've got. We've got very greedy human beings that have consumed everything around them, and now it's a last-ditch attempt to take the last little bit before they start attacking themselves. But the thing is, they're already attacking themselves. So my friends used to say to me, what do you reckon is going to happen? I said, well, Roman Catholic Church is going to collapse. Parliament's going to collapse. And it's already started, they're going to implode. The monarchy's going to implode. And every day, this is terrible. This is really, really bad.
Is it the battery in the mic?
Yeah, it might be actually. It's really spooky. Do you want another battery? Do you want to put another battery? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I like old because I feel trapped by it. I used to feel trapped on the slideshow. You know, the slideshow just to stand there and like, well, I'm not dyslexic, I'm just fucking thick.
So, there you go.
I'm standing there and I've got all this stuff written on these screens, it's written on these slides, and I'm trying to read it to the audiences. But I can't do that, I've never been able to do it, so I get tongue-tied. But then what happens is, I'll say something that's slightly not right because I've got mixed up. And then they take it and put it on the internet. He said this. No, didn't you daft twat. I topped it up. And it's obvious what I'm doing because I'm struggling to read it. I really am struggling. So if you actually watch the videos, you can see. And I remember being on the stage in Stoke. And do you know this story? You don't know this story. Does anybody know this story about what happened to me just before I went on stage in Stoke in front of there was about 700 people there? Well, I'll tell you that because you'll laugh.
Didn't involve going to the loo, did it?
It did go.
I know.
I stood, we had a stall thing, and there was Dan and Head, my missus. And I stood by the wall, I'm doing this. I'm so nervous before I go in front of the audience. And up until that point, I'd only spoken to maximum 50 people. Maximum. So I'm quietly having a chat with everyone who's walking around. I was saying, how many's here? They said it was about 600, 700. Oh, you're joking. Oh, I can't do this. Can't do this. And anyway, I was really nervous, so I went to the toilet. Well, it was one of them situations where you think you finished when you haven't finished. So, right. Politicians, you can hear me. I'm so much happier. It's far better. I don't like the way voices electronics. It messes up your voice. So anyway, so I got to the toilet, and as I walked out the toilet, I suddenly realised that I had a big wet patch. did. So I've gone over to the store and took one of these new t-shirts that we're selling. I'm trying to dry it. It must have really fun. Imagine what I'm, you know, what the fuck is he doing? So I'm trying to, F says, no, go back, they've got the blower, get your leg up here. This is strange. So anyway, as this is happening, Roger Hayes is calling my name to come onto stage. Will John Harris comes to the stage, please. Will John Harris comes to what am I going to do? So I got my jumper and I pulled it down like this, as far as I could get it, and I had a brown cardigan on. And I walked up to the stage. But what was quite amazing about the whole experience was the fact that because I pissed my trousers, my nerves had gone. I didn't have any nerves. So when I stood up on the stage and looked at this sea of faces, I was like, oh, this is not quite as bad as I first anticipated, because it literally was just a sea of faces. When you're doing talks like this, it's very intimate. You know, you've got a lot of people that are very near to you, you can see their expressions, you read their body language, you know whether they're pissed off or they're having a joke with you, they know if they're bored shitless by what you're talking about because of their facial expression. There was a poor lady in the audience last night, I don't know how she was keeping her eyes open. She was nodding off. I actually said, you poor thing, please go home. Seriously. This is what it's about. You know, I see everything. So I'm stood in front of these 700, or whatever it was, and I'm stood behind this podium. You've got to watch it. So watch it on the video. And if you listen to what I'm saying, I'm stuttering. I was like, because there's this laptop in front of me, and because I'm not very technically minded and I'm thick as shit, I kind of looking at the laptop, well, what the fuck do I do with this? Because the slideshow is over here, surely, and then I see, oh, there's a slideshow on there. I'm like, well, how am I supposed to do this? But I'd watched speakers before and they do that. Then Rog realised I was in trouble. He come over, he turned the mics off and gave me a mic. And the second he did that, I had the stage. And then I could start moving about, because I have to move about. But what was most interesting was the audience that day, because there were so many faces in the audience, and I couldn't actually pick out on any individual one. Because I'm very, I'll say this in the right sense of the word as well, I'm very privileged to do this. It's a privilege to do this. I'm very honoured to do this as well. And the reason being is because I stand in front of you, and I see everyone's face. I see, like I explained, I see all your facial expressions, everything. You see left and right and the back of some fucker's head. But you do. That's what you see. And one of the talks, I wanted to do a talk, we were trying to set this up, and I'll be quite honest with you, this is my retirement. This is absolutely my retirement. Today, I quit. I wanted to talk in my home. I wanted to talk to the people I belong to. I belong to the human race, and we're all brothers and sisters, no matter where we come from. But there's a special link to me and Cornish because of my family's history, because of lots of other bits. But there's a link with me in this place, a very specific one as well. So I wanted to come here. I spent the last 5 or 6 years of my life completely engrossed by this, and it's taken me away from my family. It's taken me away from my little boy, who's 12 now. My wife, or my partner, she can't be my wife because she's actually still married to someone else. Well, she could, but that used to be my cousin. Nepotism. It provides evidence of what family I come from, I promise you, because they're up to it all the time. She'll kill me when she hears this. But it's removed me from them, because I found myself at the computer making excuses up why I had to be in front of that computer. And what I was doing, I was looking at it, when I go onto the internet, I look at TVUC, the website, because I have to sort the comments out, which are quite colourful. I sometimes go on the forum and just see what's generally going on, and every now and again stick my oar in. And I might look at the stats of what TPC is doing at the moment, because it's very interesting when we look at our stats, because I like to see where we're getting hits from. And there's probably only about 30 countries in the world that we don't get hits from at the moment, which is a good percentage of the world. You know, I just find it all interesting, but that's all I do. And then I might have to go and do a job, so I might Google someone's address or blah, 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 but that is probably my internet activity. So, just before I started Dispatcher Talks, a friend said to me, he said, I was skinned. There was this particular week, I had 20 quid in my pocket, one thing that was upstairs, but I had 20 quid. We had the electric to pay for, and we're on these meter things, so we're paying for the nose for it, because they actually charge you more money to have these meters. But we kind of like it that way because of the situation we always go. I will quite happily bridge that fucking meter out. I know how to do it. I can do the gas and the electric in a split second. But theft is theft at the end of the day. And even though it's theft off of someone who's stealing off of, doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it right. You can't. Two wrongs can never make a right. So look, if they're stealing and I start stealing off of them, it just perpetuates the situation. So we pay our way. So we got 20 quid, and then Heb's dad said, well look, I'll give you 50 quid a week for a few weeks to help you with food, because we were struggling. Because I would feel very hypocritical going down to the job centre and saying, I'd like to sign on the dole. I would be a hypocrite. I really would be a hypocrite, but I won't do it. So I will bust my arse and work as hard as I possibly can. I'll even reduce my daily rates just to get the work in, just so I can. And it's been incredibly difficult. A mate of mine is a builder, and a kitchen to fit, and a load of other work to do, like plumbing work. So I got involved in this, and that helps me. That put us back on to a slightly even keel. We're still desperately in debt, which I'll talk about later, but we're desperately in debt. So he said, why do you go out talking? And I said, well, it's for the wrong reason. I'll be doing it for money. He said, yeah. He said, you're doing it as a job. He said, people like to come and listen to you talk. I haven't got a fucking clue why, but they do. They will pay to come and listen to you talk a reasonable amount of money. So there's nothing wrong with it. So I went, do you know what, you're right. There is nothing wrong with that. We're all entitled to earn a living, and I can do it this way. And then the question, what the hell am I going to talk about? I have no clue what I'm going to talk about. I can't do all that shit I used to do. He said, well, just talk about what you know now. I went, yeah, fair enough, I suppose. So anyway, I still feel a little bit guilt. I felt a bit of guilt about coming out and taking people's money. But then I goes off on this little tour that I've done in February. It's only about 7 tours, whatever it is. And I goes around these tours, and each one is getting funnier. The laughter. I goes to Liverpool. This man here sticks me in an ex-church. Now, that is not a good thing to do to someone like me. He said it's decommissioned church. I'd decommission it with a fucking bulldozer. We could have been warm that night. We could have burnt it and been warm. It was freezing. But the laughter. Then from there, I goes to Wales, which was even more. We did have a gig in Wales, that was fun. And when it cold and all, that was bloody brilliant. And then, night before last, I ended up in Birmingham. And we had an absolute scream. It really was. Everyone thoroughly enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The laughter. What I'm trying to get at is this. What we've lost is the ability to laugh. That's what the internet did to me. It took away my ability to laugh, to actually be a human. It sucks the life out of it. This is what I couldn't work out. It's one of the most powerful tools in humanity's possession, because we can literally communicate virally at 6,000 miles an hour. Literally. Well, actually, 6,000 miles a second. Which is incredible. We can communicate to the world. We can take a subject and send it out there, and 3/4 of the world population can view that subject if it's done properly. We've got this ability. We've got things like Facebook, where it's now worked out that 1/6 of the world's population is on Facebook. That's 1 million people on Facebook. And what do they talk about on Facebook? They say so much, but say nothing. Because it's, I went to McDonald's for my breakfast. Why do I want to know what you had for your breakfast? But it is, this is the shit that they've got, oh, this happened, or that happened, and it is. Now, my partner's on it. My partner's on it, and she communicates to her family all across the world. It's brilliant. It's a really good thing. So we have this such a powerful thing that we can use at our disposal, that we can actually get a message right across the world if we wanted to, in a blink of an eye. But we don't use it to its capacity. We don't use it for what we should use it for. So I wanted to understand why we don't, and the reason is because we're distracted. We're distracted with life because of the lives we lead, because we have to lead lives this way. So there's the mobile phone distractions, there's work, there's the wolves coming to the door, there's all this sort of stuff. And in this process, gradually and gradually and gradually, it chips away at the sense of humour. And everyone, I used to talk, I've got esoteric friends and spiritual friends, or whatever you want to call them. Just all labels. And in all fairness, they're just different fucking religions at the end of the day.
Sorry, so you're disproving all of that? Like, no, that is, there's nothing there whatsoever.
Oh, well, no, I didn't actually say that.
No, I'm just
if you
saying.
wait, I'll say it later.
Sorry. No.
Jump the gun a little bit. Right, where am I going? Right, yeah, so I've got this. You know, I didn't even know what, that's the trouble, I'll get fried off, the thread goes, and that's it, I've had it. So I've got a lot of friends, yeah, they are. And they say all sorts of things to me, and I was talking to one of them one night across Skype, and he was trying to tell me what this sixth sense is. There's meant to be this sixth sense, what we've got. You know, and they're trying to explain it to me, and he's trying to explain it to me, and he was really going into depth. And I'm listening to him, because at least you've got the courtesy to listen to someone if they say so to him. I said, well, actually, you've got your, you know, I get that, well, I don't get it, but, you know, that's your opinion. But my opinion is that the sixth sense is a sense of humour. And the reason for that is because when you see someone smile or you see someone laugh, you see the real them. When you see the frowning faces and the miserable faces and all that, and all the other masks that we have to put on to do the daily things that we do, and you know, it's like if you're a punk, you want well to know you're a punk, so you dress like a punk. That's your persona, that you've taken on this persona, that's your mask. Or yeah, if you're a Christian, you like to tell people you're a Christian. Or it's bizarre. I find it all bizarre. It's all these labels, you know, it's like pigeon boxes. What one are you up in this one? That's me. Yeah, it's really bizarre. That's what humanity kind of does. So I said, well, this sixth sense is like, when you do see people smile, when you see, and it's not just their laughter in their faces and the way their faces erupt, it's their eyes. Look in their eyes. It's absolutely fantastic to watch the roar of laughter. It's inspiring, it lifts you. It doesn't matter what shit you're in or what's going on in your lives, you start laughing and nothing matters. It doesn't matter anymore. Yeah, there's a lot of bad shit going on in the world and we shouldn't distract from the fact. But it doesn't stop us having a giggle and a laugh. One of the things that I've noticed all my life is I do somehow make people laugh. And it's generally by my own faults. At work, I'm hilarious. Because I do the most stupid things. Stupid things. Yeah, where common sense should prevail that I should do something completely different. For some reason, it doesn't work when I'm not. And I'll end up doing stupid things, like shooting nail guns through my fingers and all sorts of crap. And I did actually do that. My head was pregnant with Josh, and I was doing some work in the kitchen. And I don't know if any tradesmen here know what paste light is. Paste light go. Yes, 64mm nails. They're about that long, but they're very thick, brand. Put a bit of trim up, so I've got my hand up behind it, trying to hold it, and I've shot it, and it's gone through my finger. I've got to walk away, because you don't feel it, because it goes through so fast. And it only doesn't go through the bone, it just literally goes through the flesh. So I peeled my finger off. Common sense dictates your fucking finger is behind the piece of wood. You don't shoot yourself in the finger. But you know, honestly, I've got to get this job done. Bang. That's what I mean. But then when I start dealing with other subjects like life, then the common sense comes into play. It's really bizarre. I've done, so 5, 6 years, sat in front of computers and all this stuff. So when I started doing this batch of talks, I've actually been away from computers because I can't get near one. Because obviously I'm busy. I'm out on the road, I'm driving hundreds of miles on roads that are becoming more ludicrous by the day. You know, you're driving along and it says, these big signs, I like these big signs that they've got. They're driving along and it says, queue ahead. Well, what the fuck am I going to queue for? I don't want to fucking queue anywhere. I want to fucking get to where I'm going. Queue ahead. Caution. 40 miles an hour. So you slow down. There's nothing on the fucking road. You slow down. So you go through the next one, 50. Fuck mate, I'm getting 50 now. So I'm up to 50. Next one, 40. Next one, 60. Is some fucking taking the piss? Is he literally just, yeah, I can watch it, I'm watching him. 40 down to 12. 50 down. I would if it was me. I would do it. I would do it. Wouldn't you? It's got to be fucking screaming, wouldn't it? You could. Get mate in his real fast car. 20. That's what I look. And there's ludicrous things that go on. And the first section of that was the M25 round by Heathrow, which is, and what do they call it? I can't remember what they call it now. So like monitored speed area.
Variable speed limit.
Hey?
Variable.
Yeah, durable speed area. Yeah. Oh my God. So I find all this really comical. The best time is like when I left Birmingham at 1:30 in the morning. It's normally a 2-hour journey for me. I was home at 3 o'clock. So it's an hour and a half because there was nothing on the roads. It was lovely. There was none of this silly signage. It doesn't say, but they do put things up. They do. I don't know if you've noticed. A lot of people don't notice. But you drive along, it says, "Don't drink and drive." I'm drinking a cup of coffee. Oh. Does it mean a cup of coffee? No, don't drink and drive. Is it literal? No. And there's other things as well. Loads of things get put up on these little signs. And then I'm driving along the other day, and I'm driving down the M6, and it's telling me about a problem 100 miles away on the M1. Well, surely by the time we get there, we've fucking all sorted out anyway. Why are you telling me now? And it does, it literally, I see all this silly shit, you know, because I wonder why it's going on. But it's distractions. It's all about distracting you. So, 5, 6 years, I come to this point in my life, and there's so much going on. I've talked to my friends about it. I know Dave, I know quite a few of you. And the lads at the back fastly. My mates who've come up to stay with me and stuff like that. And I've talked about this stuff, and I talked to him, and then just the other day, literally the day, I said, no, this is it. Tonight is the end. Because I was meant to be talking in Glastonbury in 6 weeks' time, and another one, and another one, and another one. I don't want to be away from my family. I want to go back with my family. They've had 5 or 6 years. Do you know what, in all fairness, a lot of it, because you've got to remember this, you are listening to a man at 14 years old was put in a mental asylum for 1 year. So don't ever forget that anything I say, you are actually listening to a man who is the ex-patient of a mental asylum. So please take that into consideration before trying anything I suggest. Because if it does go tits up, you've only got your fucking self to Don't blame me. I've warned you. I've really warned you. And that's my history. My history is mental health. You know, I was talking about this, and just last night I talked about it. You know, and I've always had this problem with paying income tax. I've always had this problem with taxation because it doesn't make sense to me. Because I could ask her. You know, and I've actually rang up and asked about this, which is even more comical. Can you tell me where my payment's gone and what it got used for? Well, yeah, they get quite frustrated on the phone because their obvious answer is no. But I'm saying, well, that can't be the case because you record everything. record everything. They do record everything. If you go to Tesco's with one of them silly club cards and you buy toilet paper, they know what you wipe your arse with. Because it's all recorded. So surely, if that's the system we live under, where everything is recorded, then if I made a payment, you should be able to tell me where the payment went, or what MP's bank account it landed up in. It's true though. So I ask these silly questions, but they're questions based on common sense, which you could ask. You know, I was listening to a story last night where someone got locked away, right? And there were so many phone calls to where he got locked away, they crashed their telecom system completely. It completely, well, why, we could do that. We could decide that 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon, we're all going to ring the VAT office. Can you imagine them? Go mental. Ring them up and ask them what it is. Just ring them up, ask them what it is, ask them what income tax is, why does it apply, ask them questions. Because what I've worked out is every time I talk, I ask audiences, have you run the House of Lords? Have you run Houses of Parliament? Have you run Buckingham Palace? Have you run the Home Office? Have you run court services, the police? Not to report something, but just to ask questions. But you don't do it. But you moan about what they're doing to you, but you don't actually go to them and ask them about it. I've had some fascinating conversations with people down at Parliament. Fascinating. And they will try to help you as far as they can go. When you overstep the mark, though, you can't give you legal advice. That's quite a common mantra. But there's so many places you can call. You can talk to these people. You can't talk to David Cameron, not if you fucking want to, but you can't. I'd like to ask you where you got that 30 mil from. I would. Do you mind? I'm going to get it yourself if you got the way. You want to pay for it? Seriously, I will. Thank you. But you can, and that's what frustrates me. Is, you know, and it's very interesting because when you start asking certain questions, I used to ring them up like I talk. You hear the way I speak. I sound like I come from the East End of London. I don't come from London, but I sound like I come from the East End of London. A lot of people in Hertfordshire speak the way I do because it's what they call an overflow town. Do you know what overflow towns are? Yeah. You know, they build, you've got a big city, what they do is build towns all around it, and then you get the overflow from out the city, ends up being in the towns. So obviously the accents come with them, the dialects come with it. And Hemel Hempstead is an overflow town. So I'm ringing them up like I'm a builder, like I'm talking to my mates on the building site. And I couldn't understand why they wouldn't answer my questions. So I came away from it and I sat there for a little while, and this is when I had an office up the top of my garden where I used to run my companies out. So I sat there and I'm scratching a bit and I'm going, right, okay, so let's try longer words, telephone manner, telephone voice. And I was writing a book at the time. Well, they don't need to know what I'm writing about, but I can tell them I'm an author. So I did it. I phoned them up and I said, right, and I used slightly longer words, which is quite easy to do. I've got on my telephone voice that you use. That's telephone voice. I love women's telephone. I love it because you go to someone's house and they talk to you and then they go like, hello. You all do it. We do it. Blokes do it sometimes. It's hilarious. We do. So we've got this telephone voice. I've got on the telephone voice. I'm talking to them. I'll tell them I'm an author. They can't help me enough. They seriously can't help you enough because you've become part of their club. There's not a separation between you anymore because of the way you speak. Because they actually do, because of that, I work in Parliament. You only answer the fucking phone now, don't you? But it's the impression of where you work. You know, you like to demonstrate this. You know, I want better quality. I remember watching the programme once, and what was her name? There was an MP on there. And I'm sure it wasn't question time, it was something like question time, but it wasn't question time. And I was watching it. Blears, her name is. Her surname's Blears, I can't remember her first name. Anyway, she's named Hazel Blears, that's it, yeah. So she sat there and then got they're like football pundits, aren't they? Really. Sat there and then they get chucked a load of questions that they never fucking answer. But She sat there and she said, I've got a lot of respect for the ordinary people. I'm like, what the fuck are you then? What? Just because you're an MP? You're not ordinary. What, are you special in some way? It's deadly serious. You listen to the way they speak, they do actually separate themselves. You know, do you know the lowest form of privilege? It's called key workers. You know these key workers? Teachers, nurses, key workers. Thank you very much. Just around the corner from where I live, they built some houses. And there was blocks of flats and houses all amalgamated. Now, I don't know if you know the rule about house building now, but they changed it a little while ago. 15% of any major construction of houses has to be, 15% of it has to be social housing. Do you know that? Yeah. That's why, yeah, you go to these estates that they build, and you will see sort of the private element, and then you'll see the council element. Okay, and there is a massive, you can tell as well, because when you go around there, BMW, Merc, you know, all the cars, when you go around there, clapped out old Fiesta, you can tell there's a difference. Well, they built these houses, and then we asked about them. Funny enough, I asked at the local school, and they were key worker houses. So they built housing that's desperately needed in our area, but then only offered it to nurses, police, school teachers, you know, civil servants, that sort of thing. They're called key workers, and that's the first line of privilege. What I didn't know is that then that steps up a notch, and then you've got your doctors, because they're seen as a bit more doctors, and then it goes up another notch, and basically you have the pyramid in your community. The class division is within your own community. Excuse me, and I found this very interesting, that I can actually talk about this subject and no one really knows what I'm talking about. They've never seen it in their own communities. You know, the fact that this actually exists. Well, what I worked out is that the whole world is basically a pyramidical selling scheme under a dog complex. And it doesn't matter if you're down here or you're up here, it's the same thing. Well, when you can see that, it's like, well, it doesn't take much more common sense to work out why it's like that. And it's really interesting about the points of power, because obviously it's all done in the name of, there's a point of power at the top of the pyramid. So basically the idea is that they're the point of power sat up here, and what they take revel in the fact that everyone else below them is looking up their arse up. Pretty straight up, that's what they do. They look down. I'm better than you because I have a bigger office that's higher up the building. And it's all this status thing. But the comical thing is when that meets me. Because I see every human being on parity. No class, no division, there's nothing exists with me. We are all equal. You're not better than me because you drive a newer car than me. You're not better than me because you have a bigger house than me, blah, 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 blah. You know, in fact, I had a really, really interesting conversation with a solicitor once. I was working in London, and I was working in a place called Offenden House. Now, Offenden House is where, I don't know if you remember from years ago, a band, one of them married one of the Gallaghers. I can't remember what they're called, two twins, used to be in a band, Appleton Sisters. Well, I ended up, it's a really good, funny story about it, because I walked into their flat, because I was working in their flat, and they have a big Great Dane, standing about this long. So I'm trying to be very polite, and I'm talking to Natalie, and their dog shoved his head in my nuts. So I'm doing this, trying to be polite, while this dog is fondling. So I did the job, and a solicitor across the way, who lived in one of the flats, wanted some work doing. So we quoted the work, and we gave him a good price, and we arranged for the time for it to be done. And this is in West Hampstead, which is an arsehole to get to, at the best of times, let alone 8 o'clock in the morning. So I drive it down, and I can see that we're stuck in traffic, and we're going to be late. So I did the courteous thing and called him and said, we're going to be late. Well, did he set off? Oh dear. So he's starting to shout at me down the phone, and I'm keeping me cool, keeping me demeanour, being polite, you know, as you're meant to be. And then he starts saying to me, do you know, I earn £100 an hour, and I'm going to charge you £100 an hour for every hour you're late. Right, well, that's an interesting. So anyway, I said, well, it's not a problem, because I said, carpenters now earn £100 an hour. Every hour you charge me, I'll just charge you another 100 for what I'm going to do. So he's like, you can't do that. You haven't been to university. You haven't studied this. I said, no, mate, if I don't do my job, you ain't got a fucking house to live in. Now whose fucking job's more important? Which is true. No, we're looked on as a scum of the earth. Tradesmen, I've been to houses in this day and age where you can't go through the front door, you've got to go around the back. This is deadly serious. Deadly serious. I've worked in these places. They call them the affluent areas, or the upper demographic, they're called as well. Generally professors and teachers and people of that, yeah. We worked for a professor, a brain professor, and another doctor, I'm not going to say their name. They lived in a £1.8 million house. The company I was working for was a very dear friend of mine. There was a small group of us who used to work. There was a bricklayer, I was a chippy, there was a couple of labourers, a plasterer, but we all mucked in as well. We didn't just do our own jobs, we do anything that needs to be done. And that's what's good about little companies, you don't get prima donnas. I'm a carpenter, I don't fucking sweep up. You fucking do now, here's a brush, get on with it. And so we're working, it's £1.8 million house. We built a £300,000 extension. You know, most people's houses are not worth 300 grand. And do you know what? The prime bit of this extension was their bedroom. Their bedroom was bigger than most people's houses. There was quite a funny story about this, because Dan the bricklayer was a bit clumsy. And does anybody know what a padlock is? Yeah. So it's a short scaffold pole about that long that you use to rest your boards on. Generally you've got a flat bit so it slots into the brickwork to tie in. So it's only about short, it's about 4 foot long. Scaffold pole. We're adapting the scaffold we're not allowed to do without a scaffold ticket. We're not allowed to do it. So we're never allowed to adapt scaffold, even though we know what we want the scaffold to do. And most of the scaffolders never do what we want them to do. They do what they want to do. So we're adapting the scaffold, and we're 2 decks up. The building, the extension we built is between the old kitchen and the swimming pool, big indoor swimming pool. So Dan's taking these padlocks out and he's winding up the nuts like that, winding off the nuts. And as he took it off, he's let go of it. And I've never seen anything like it. It went off the scaffold like a missile, went straight through the window, straight into the pool, and put an hole in the bottom of the pool. And he cracked the tiles in the bottom of the pool. But the comical bit was, the heating pump on the pool had packed up the heat exchanger, which is a big monstrous piece of kit that keeps the pool warm, because you've got a phenomenal amount of water. So it was absolutely freezing cold. He had to get in it to get that pole out. But these were the sort of things, and that's what I lived through all these experiences and the laughs and the fun and everything. So when I used to go to work, I used to have a great laugh. What I noticed when I came into this is that went instantly. And all I was meeting was very, very serious people. They were very serious. I've even got an intellectual friend who does a lot of research for me, and he hasn't got a sense of humour. Just recently, I've started to bring it out of him, and it's not because I just use wise cracks to bring it out of him. And you know, when there was a bit on the forum recently, I don't know if you saw it. It's supposedly one of my talks. I said I was gay. Did you see this? Did you see it? You know, I don't know what they're talking about, but you know, but there is a side of me, I'm sure, that is camp. Well, I was diagnosed with multiple personality disorder, so there's a fucking good chance there's a camp one in there somewhere. There's got to be, isn't there? By the rules of the book, there's got to be a camp one. But also, the other thing that, you know, is autism as well. You know, that's another thing that I've had thrown at me, because of certain little things that annoy me. I'm very OCD about certain things, like smoke detectors that blink. And all you got to do is change battery. And they bleep. And they really bleep. Well, generally on my side of my waist here when I'm at work is a hammer that hangs about down there, attached on the back of the leg. The smoke detector gets the hammer. I can't help it, these things drive me nuts because, and that's why sometimes when I've gone out talking and I look at an audience and I'm explaining something, I get incredibly frustrated because you don't get what I'm talking about because it's sometimes too simple to get because we live in the world of intellect and knowledge and you must know this and you must know that and you go, well, you don't need it. You don't need this shit. You really don't. It's very simple. There is a group of fuckers over there and they're taking the piss out of you. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. And it really is that in a nutshell. Is it not? Yes. You know, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and we all moan about it, but they're still getting fucking richer and we're still getting poorer. Well, I'm fed up with talking about it. I really am fed up with it. And that's a lot of the reason I'm just packing it up. I'm coming away from the internet. I'm not being involved in TVC in any shape, form or fashion. I'm deleting all my email accounts. Whoever needs to get hold of me will get hold of me because they've got my phone number, my mobile number, or I've got my house number if they're a very close friend. And I have an idea which I'm going to explore later on with you. And this is about, this talk is called The Revelations of John. Deliberately. And the reason is because my name's John and I'm wanting to reveal something. So it's The Revelations of John. It's that simple. But I do things because I get a lot of fun out of fucking with your minds. I used to go and see a psychiatrist because I've seen a lot of psychiatrists in my life. So I would go and see a psychiatrist and the second I left, the psychiatrist would go and see a psychiatrist. I've got a very, very dear friend who is a psychiatrist. But he calls himself a quack. He does it deliberately just to piss all of the other psychiatrists off. He calls himself a quack. Because he says, the stuff that they're taught, and what he said, a lot of it is complete bollocks. Absolute bollocks. What he'll do is, right, he'll take you to the visit, take you to sir, right, you come into my office and sit down, like, what's up, mate? Oh, I'm a little bit depressed. I'm a little bit this. You're bipolar. Right, so you go away going, he's told me I'm bipolar. And it sinks in. And then you go home and you go, he told me I'm bipolar. And then the more you repeat it, the more you believe it. So what you've gone in with, you know, it's incredible. So you've gone in, you're a little bit depressed. Look, show me a human being on this planet that's not been depressed at one time or another. Seriously, because you don't know what depression is, do you? Does anybody in this room really know what depression is?
Yes.
What is depression?
Suppressed emotion.
It's mind.
What you
What you believe that isn't actually real. Really.
Right. That just proves exactly what I'm talking about. Knowledge, intel. No, when you're depressed, you're fucking pissed off. That's it, you're pissed off with life. That's depression. And we all get pissed off. But we don't need some fucking label and a handful of drugs to throw down our throat that will make us even worse. Did you know, I'm not kidding you, kid you not, look at this the next time, if any of you are taking antidepressants, look at the label. One of the side effects is suicide. You feel suicidal. You're taking the fucking things to stop you committing suicide and it will create it. And that shows evidence that we only ever read what we want to read. We don't actually read what's really there. We never read it. We never read anything properly. We don't actually hear anything properly. And that's what's most fascinating. And that's why they take the piss out of you. Because they know that fact. Because you won't see things logically. You get a parking ticket. Parking ticket stuck on your thing. Like that. There's a couple of ways of dealing with it. One, it says can only be touched by an authorised person. Ring them up and say, well, I'm not a fucking authorised person, so I can't touch it. It's got a corporate logo on it. No, it's got a corporate logo on it. It will say whatever council it's come from, corporate logo. So right back to them and say, 30 quid. Well, by chance, I'm going to actually charge you 30 quid for advertising your fucking company on my car without my permission. It's true. It really does work, these things. It's about having fun. If you get serious, you've become them.
Yeah.
Have you dealt with an automatron? Do you know what I'm talking about, an automatron?
Yeah.
They're being taught. Even we've got a friend who is sort of like on the rock and roll, and she's had to go on these work things, and she went on this course, and she was telling me about what they do. And what they do is they're actually teaching them to become emotionless, to not use body language. Okay, because when you speak and you're face to face with someone, you give off more from your body language than you ever will from your mouth. You can lie with this, but your body language is telling the truth. And someone who can read body language can pick up on this. They really can. So I get people sitting in my house and they're telling me little stories, and I'm watching their body and I'm saying, you're a lying twat. I'm saying to myself, because I can be quite polite. I can. I do other things which are quite funny, but I can't help it. That's me. There's a really one of my personas is a really naughty little boy, and he's very mischievous, and he likes shocking people. If he comes out tonight, you'll really enjoy it. He is gay. I am going to miss this. I must admit, I am going to miss it. Someone asked me how I can do this, how I can stand in front of an audience, act the prat, talk about my own thoughts. How do I do it? And the reason being is because when I look back at my life and realise what a bad twat I've been most of my life, and the selfishness and some of the horrible things I've done to other human beings, not just physically but also mentally, when I look back at that, and now I talk about it in front of audiences, you lose your inhibitions. I haven't got any inhibitions anymore regarding these subjects. I don't care what someone writes on the forum. You know, I'm going to talk about something tonight which is ludicrous and laughable. And really, I'm opening myself up for a big fall, but maybe I'm designing that in a way. Who's laughing? You know what I'm going to say, don't you? No, and what I find, and that's what gave me the ability to do it. One of the biggest things that we fear is public speaking for some reason. We don't want to, you know, I had it in Birmingham, a lad asked me a question, and he goes, I said, no, stand up. And he's like, oh, no. I said, stand up, and ask the question, because the second you stand up, all lies. Boom. And it does, it can be quite frightening. I've even been in situations where, you know, and this was recently, I was asked to go to something, which I didn't really want to go to, but I wanted to help the bloke out, so I actually went to it. I went to an annual general meeting, and I went as a proxy. Now, proxies are not allowed to speak. You're not allowed to ask questions. You're there for a vote. It's a proxy vote, it's what it's called. And the most comical bit about this is, it was involving a nudist camp. I spent 2.5 months working on a nudist camp. My mate is a bricklayer and he's an atriest. And his house bungalow flooded and I had to go to, he told me, it doesn't say seriously, whatever you're told about a nudist camp and the images you form about a nudist camp is not what you're going to see. Because generally, most of them are like 70, 80. And if you want to see what you're going to look like at 70 or 80, go to a nudist camp. Seriously. And do you know what the strangest thing is? There was, I will never forget this, it was very funny. There was this bloke, he was a really lovely guy actually, I got to know him. And he was cutting his hedge with a hedge trimmer. You've got to imagine, this is a big hedge trimmer. He had a t-shirt on, but the bit that could actually get caught in the hedge trimmer had no protection whatsoever. And I'm like, whoa, that looks a bit... But the weirdest thing is this. You eat an atriest, and they literally, to them, it's quite normal to just walk around starkers. If that's how they want to do it, that's fair enough. You know, I ain't got a problem with it. But the thing is, if you meet them, you don't shake their hand, but your eyes, You can't help yourself from doing it. You can't help yourself from doing it. Oh, we just looked at his dick. And it's really awful. But it was a fascinating experience. I ended up in this meeting, and for some reason I was allowed to talk. So I stood up, and about my nerves hit me. It was phenomenal. I was like that, and I didn't know what to say. Because I really didn't want to be there anyway. It was all to do with the politics of this. And basically what the politics is, it's quite simple. This family opened this nudist place. It's not very far from where I live. Well, it is. It's a few miles. But there's 3 of them. And one got bought up. Now this nudist camp is literally about 200 yards from the M25. If you go another half a mile, you've got the M1. This is prime location to build. One nudist camp got sold of the 4, and a bloke built 3 big houses of it. But I don't know if you know the rules about building estates, but you have to have one in, one out. You can't go in and out on the same road. We can, but you must have a former going in and a former going out on a separate road. The other nudist camp landlocked him. And a landlock is when something's in the way that stops things being built around it, because it prevents access or exit from the land. I would say that that land that nudist camp sits on is worth about 28 million on the open market, because of what you can build on there, and because it has buildings on it already. Building application would easily go through. So it's prime location. But what they've got is they've got a problem, because a good percentage of the residents on there are sitting tenants. So what they tried to do about a year ago was redo their contracts at a yearly rollover. I don't know if you noticed this, but the councils have started to do this as well, the local councils. You know, I live in a council house. Yeah, I live in that, and ours is permanent. It's a permanent residency. We can stay there probably as long until we die. But the kids that are going into these houses are now having to sign it's a rollover on a year. So basically they can terminate it whenever they want. That's the whole, they've only got to give you a year's notice. So that's what I got involved in. And I went down there and to listen to this thing. But it was just really, really bizarre. The whole thing is very bizarre because it's a very corporate setup. And I didn't expect to see such a corporate setup regarding this place, where generally it's like a little village, if you like. It's only a little village where they decide they want to walk around with nothing on. Which is bizarre, but there you go. So I do get involved in some strange things. I've been involved in court cases as well. I don't go to the court. I'm in the background. I'm the one who sort of like gives information. I was involved in Ian Pollock's case. Quite a few cases I've been involved in, and it's really funny some of the information that you get come through because you ask them to do certain things in a certain way. I remember when the bailiffs took my van, which was really interesting because I knew nothing about this, and they came and they took my works van, which from what I understood, you're not allowed to do because it's a tool of my trade, and you're not allowed to take a tool of a trade, supposedly, but obviously that. And I remember, excuse me, they took my van, a mate rang up and he says, we'll go and get a statute of declaration. I went, what the hell's that? He said, go down to the court, ask for a stat dec, tell them that they took your van without conviction. Which they had. I hadn't been convicted by a court. This was all over me talking on the phone, not paying the fine. So anyway, I went to the court, I got the stat dec, and I looked at it, and I was like, I don't really feel this out. So anyway, he told me what happened. He said, look, and it's true, I hadn't been to court, so I just thought, well, I haven't been to court, they took me van, I want it back basically. I don't know. So anyway, I took it to the office, court office, and I've gone in there, and this lovely lady was sat the other side, beautiful smile, and she said to me, you haven't filled this out right. I went, oh shit. She said, let me get another one, and I'll show you what to do, how to do it. So she patiently went through the document with me, and then she said, look, you go sit over there, and she said, I'll get an usher to take you to a court. I didn't know what was going on, I really didn't know the process. So anyway, I ended up going to sit in this public gallery, and there's some bloke in front of me, in front of the magistrates, being done for drink driving, if I remember right. So I was sitting listening to that and watching everything that's going on in the court, finding it very, very fascinating. And then the usher come in and said, actually, you're in the wrong court, we need you in another court. So off we went again. And he was ever so nice, he was a lovely fella. He actually apologised as well. Down the steps we went, and we went into court number 1, and I walked in. I didn't go anywhere near the dock or anything like that. I just literally walked in, and he took the paperwork from me. He said, you just stand there a minute, and you give it to the magistrate, the lady in the middle. Give her the form, she looked at it, signed it, give me it back. I said, right, what's happening? He said, oh, go get your van. That's what, hold on, I said, run that past me again. He said, go and get your van. We will now send the fax to the bailiffs who took your van to say that you've got to have your van back. I said, well, what about the money? He said, oh no, that's all quashed. Oh my, hold on a minute, what's going on here? This is really interesting. Well, then I started to look at statutory declarations, because I wanted to find out what they really did. And it turns out that you're fooled into going into Depot and paying a fortune to change your name. Well, actually, you can do it with a statutory declaration, or you can do it with an affidavit. All you've got to do is declare that you want to be called something different and get someone to witness it. That's it. Job done. So I found that out about the stat decks. There's another one about the conviction, obviously, without being convicted. Well, I don't know if that actually applies to all fixed penalty notices, because obviously you've been prosecuted or you've been fined without conviction. So you've never been to a court and been convicted. It's someone just throwing a thing at you and saying, I want you to pay that. So I find that very interesting, this stat decks. But what I did find quite fascinating was a friend of mine was doing the same process, and he went to a court and they wanted 50 quid for the stat deck. They actually charged him £50 for the statutory declaration. So there's no guarantee the magistrate's going to sign it, go your favour. Yes, ma'am.
So I've got a little bit of a question. Right, so if you get summons to court,
yes,
then you can go to court by post. So you don't actually go to court, but you tick the little box saying, okay, I plead guilty by post.
yeah.
You haven't actually gone to court and been convicted of nothing. Is that the same thing, or
I
not?
don't know, you'd have to ask them about that. I've never been, I can only talk from my experiences. And I've never experienced that.
Fine.
Yeah, if you actually go and talk to the courts, I know it sounds,
Yeah.
what I'm trying to get at is this.
I was actually driving without a licence at the time as well, but got done for driving no insurance.
You're a commercial driver.
No, my car actually sat up, my friend was teaching me how to drive. And my car sat there for 2 months, and then I got a job, and the only way I could get there was to drive, so I choose to drive, because I had to work and earn money, and got pulled over about 10 seconds away from where I was going to go. Took my car, crashed my car, and got 8 points on a non-existent licence, which is, I actually got away quite lucky.
But your licence is very existent, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the points are existent, and the insurance is existent.
Only if you have mixed.
No, it is very existent, and you can't do nothing but. That's why I never went into anything to do with cars, deregistering cars. I never spoke about it. I got a friend who went into it heavily, by the name of Richard. I never touched it because I realised very, very soon there's no way out of it. No way out of it. And the only reason I realised that is because you're slaves.
Yeah, more
No, you're slaves.
No,
More of that.
if you don't agree to it, you're not.
Of course you're not. I had this last night and the bloke says, no, I don't believe I'm a slave. I said, well, it's okay. Well, you don't believe the police have power. So you don't believe they'll come and drag you to a cell.
Yeah, but they're enforcing 2 forms of law, aren't they? They're enforcing common law and the civil law. You know, the civil law is, you have to admit that. The civil law covers your whole driving licence, insurance, and shit like that. You know?
There's something
The common law of the road is a law of nuisance. As long as you're not causing a nuisance.
Fascinating.
I'm
Absolutely.
fucking right.
Absolutely.
Fascinating and right.
If that's your opinion,
No, I'm right. That's what I'm opinion because it's right.
I find that very, very fascinating.
Enjoy, James. It's right.
Have you not got an answer?
Pardon?
Have you got an answer?
I've got an answer. Well, I'll find it very... I've had all these conversations before, and it's very, very interesting. I find that I get thrown this, you know.
I've got a question. Has someone got to you, John?
Has someone got to me?
Yeah. You've completely changed your tune from the video. You switched me on to all this.
Okay.
Right, and you've completely changed your tune. What's going on?
Who would it be then? Who's got to me?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
No,
That's the question. That's my question. You can't answer the question.
cannot
The question.
do it.
My question, shoot, has someone got to you?
You just can't do that.
I'm an honest man.
Someone
Speak
needs
the
a P
truth.
word.
So if I actually say to you that I haven't been got at,
Right.
then that's the absolute truth.
Fine, I believe you.
Right?
Yeah, no.
Well,
Hang on.
Excuse me, can we just leave the speaker speak tonight? If you've got questions, please ask the questions later.
No.
Give the speaker the dignity to
Yeah.
speak.
Where you have an answer to that, you never replied yes or no. You said yes, I have an answer.
I didn't
You never
try to
actually
give
give
him
an
a
answer.
chance.
That's it.
Give him a chance.
Carry on, John.
Right.
Carry on, John.
A
Yeah.
friend of mine had exactly the same face.
It's real.
Okay?
Pardon?
It's not a debate.
A friend of mine had exactly the same approach of yours. Yeah? And I found it very, very fascinating what happened to him. Because you only heard one side of the story, you didn't hear the other side of the story. Okay? No? Bear with me.
Okay.
Okay? I know how you feel, because I felt the same. And that's what got me into this, is the way that you feel. And the passion that you're showing, and the anger as well. There's a great, no, there is. There's a great deal of anger in this, because you're pissed off that they can do that, and you want to do your thing. That's fine. So my friend did this, and all of a sudden he found out the full force of the law. That's why they call it the full force of the law. Because they don't give a fuck. You don't comply, they will beat you fucking senseless. And it doesn't matter what words come out of your mouth, they will still do it. You will not stop them doing it. They will put you in a cell and kick 6 bells of shit out of you. They will hang you up by your fucking ankles if they need to. And no one can stop them doing it. No one. There's no words that can stop them. None of your actions are going to stop them. That's why it doesn't work.
So we should just roll over and let it
No. Don't roll over. We just be patient. Because if you listen,
I'm listening.
give me back.
I'm all ears, John.
You've got to look at where their power comes from.
Yeah.
And then you change that point of power. And then they can stop it. They can stop what they're doing. We can stop what they're doing.
Yeah.
But you have to listen to that, and then you can form any judgment from that point you want on. But the techniques you're talking about, I've seen some quite like, I'll give you an example. I've seen some amazing, I've done some like, I was on the M27, 127 miles per hour, flashed by a camera with a BBC cameraman stood beside it. So this is all on film. Car comes up my arse. He's fucking furious, this copper. I open the door, give me your keys. I see his face, he's upset. You give him your keys? No problem with that whatsoever. No problem. I got out of the car, I joined him in his Volvo. 20 minutes later, I shook his hand, said what a pleasure it was to meet him, what a lovely chat. Walked back to my car. I've left my keys in the cop car. So I went back to the cop car, knocked on the window, and he gave me his keys with a beautiful smile. This is all on camera. Right? Now you see it in the newspapers, 110, 115. They have blatantly caught someone doing 127. If it had been 5 minutes earlier, it would have been 165. I was only slowing down. That's why I was at 127, because I was slowing down from 165. I had an ST220. So I got an ST220, which is a 4-1-day, 220 brake horsepower. It's built to do 165 miles an hour. It can handle, the car handles perfectly at that speed, it has the tyres to do that speed, and I was driving on a fucking racetrack. And I'll tell you why the M6 toll road is a racetrack. Go and look at the tarmac. It's exactly the same formulation as racetracks, because that is a racetrack for the rich. Because no other fucker uses it because it's too expensive. If I go out there in my little van, it's 11 quid, one way. So it's 22 quid to go up and back down. But if you go on the original M6, it's shite because of the roadworks. So you're tempted to go on this racetrack. I don't know if any of you know anything about doing bike tests. If you do a bike test, nowadays you go onto what they call a pad, and you do all your manoeuvring stuff, like your emergency stop, you do your swerve mobility, you do it. Go and look at the tarmac on that race, been packed. It is close-knit tarmac. That's racing track quality tarmac. The normal roads are not made with that. I don't know what did it, but I don't know why I didn't appear quite blatantly on one of these cop shows because of what I'd done, driving at that speed. I did say to him a few things in the car, but I was very polite, I was incredibly respectful, very respectful indeed. My manners were impeccable, and I had I was smiling a lot as well. When I was telling him stuff, and I wasn't smiling, joking, I was just being friendly. To this day, I've never had a ticket, I've never been. So, I don't know what the hell went on. I don't know why it never appeared on BBC. I don't know, I haven't got a clue. But that's just one occasion. You know, I look at some of the things, I've seen other people and what they've done, and I've seen, we've explored loopholes, and what we've done is we've forced the loophole, we've forced it, and then tried to force it again, and it's been shut. So when you find a path through, which could take you 18 months of your life to study, to find this path through, and you get there and you go, yes! And you let everybody else know, and they go and do it, and that has been shut. And they've created another one that will take you another 18 months to find. That's what the process is about.
At what point do you find that it's shut? Is it just at the first stage of the court hearing, or are you taking the...
Oh no, they'll take you right through.
Appeal stage up to the High Court and the Supreme Court?
Well, the High Court are nothing, they've got no power whatsoever. They're a comedy act. If you know...
They go through the appellate court, are we talking here, when you say that they close the loophole, is it just at the point where you, the initial court hearing, where you find you're getting closed down by that judge?
It depends on
what...
what...
then actually appealing decisions?
It depends on what you're going against them for. But generally road traffic is sewn up. It's a completely sewn up thing. Completely. If you don't have an MOT on your car, then your insurance is invalid. That's their rules. And that's what they will apply to you. It doesn't matter what you say to them.
Well, I'm not saying this. This is in the Road Traffic Act 1960, section, I forget exactly, but it's around the 250 mark. 256, let's say.
Right.
You know, it's the common law of the road is the law of nuisance.
Right. Explain that.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that, you know, I would take a position in those circumstances where if I'm not causing a nuisance, then perhaps, you know, the civil law doesn't apply unless I agree that it applies. And I suppose what I'm asking you is, why have you changed your position on that?
I never had a position in the first one.
Right. Okay.
Which is quite interesting.
I kind of, maybe I'm incorrect, but I kind of assumed that one of your things was the whole kind of common law versus civil law thing.
Explain common law. Explain common law in a nutshell.
Explain common law. Well, I suppose it's principles derived from natural law. You know,
so
the
would you
natural
say,
world as it applies to the law.
and in that, that definition, so would you say that common law is derived from the Bible?
Well, yeah.
What does the Bible highlight? What does it highlight? What does it show in structure? What does it show in structure?
It depends on how you perceive the
Well, I suppose what it shows in structure is that mankind is the beneficiary of everything on this earth.
Simple.
And all these institutions
Simply, very simple.
yeah, and all these institutions, therefore, like the police and the
No.
law and things
No.
like the court, these are trustees looking after our interests.
It shows you have a master.
No.
Yes, it
No,
does.
no, what it shows is that the trustees are overreaching our interests because they can do
That's
our
what,
needs.
it depends on how you perceive the Bible, though, doesn't
It
it?
shows you have a master. You are playing by
I have no
the
masters.
master's
I'm a
rules.
man, I have no masters.
How much do you know about the Bible?
Not a great deal, I don't want to know about
Well,
it.
then how can you say that it shows that you have a master?
Because it's like
How
it does.
can you not derive from that it's actually to make yourself?
I've heard people say this.
Yeah, but if you perceive it in a different light, if you perceive it in a different light, then basically that you're the master of yourself. Not a master as in someone that's the master of yourself. It's a completely different thing. I'm not actually religious. Just asking the question.
Yeah. Yeah, do you want to break? I've never been anywhere and there's been a raffle halfway through. Welcome home. This is not you don't know how much I miss this place. You really don't. I do. I love.
You're here now.
I know. Oh, listen to that. You're here now. When I was young, I'll tell you a little story actually. When I was young, my auntie Gert said to me, she said, obviously, you live near London. You know, it's really weird actually because a lot of Cornish people and Welsh and Scottish, when you speak the way I do, they kind of instantly, you come from London. Well, no, I don't. I live 26 miles outside of London. Hemel Hempstead is a town, like I said, an overflow town, so there's Hemel, Stevenage, all the different, but we all speak very similar. She said to me, so you're going to forget how your Cornish talk, because you're growing up in Hertfordshire. So she said, you need to know a little rhyme. Well, I was only, it's a tiny, I was a dot, you know, so I was kind of, none of this makes sense to me, I'm only a little kid. And she was really old, I'll explain that later, really old. And she said to me, so she said, I want you to remember this. She says, here's a poem from way down west to wish you all the very best results in the coming years. You have the best of luck in years. Yeah. And I've never forgotten it. And every time I want to feel home, I recite it. Because it reminds me of how dear I hold this place. And later on, not now, later on, I do want to tell you a few things, but it is going to be presented in story form. Because a lot of the stuff I'll be talking about, I can give you no evidence about it. And in some ways it doesn't need evidence. It's like I need to say it to you tonight because someone in this audience is going to say something back to me. I'm missing a part of the puzzle. And I need that last part of that puzzle. And then everything falls into place. When I spoke to Graham, who very generously, and his wife, sorry, lovely meal tonight, thank you very much. When I spoke to him and he said about doing the talk, and originally it was going to be in Camborne, wasn't it? It wasn't going to come here, and then we were going to go to Camborne, and then it came back to here because I said, I want to be able to see where I was born. But I reckon I've got respect for the fucking Pope, eh? Yeah, sorry about that. There's obviously the Roman Catholic Church and Popeless at the moment. I don't quite know what that means, actually, Popeless. Doesn't, I don't know. There must be some reason. People bullshit. People bullshit. Very powerful people bullshit. So anyway, I want to open up a little bit to you and say, right, where do you want to go with this? What do you want to know about? If it's quite a complicated question like yours was, or yours, my friend, then we'll limit it to a few sentences, okay? A few sentences. We won't, because it's not really, because obviously a lot of people come from a long way, want to hear about a multitude of subjects, okay? And it's not just about what you want to hear about, it's what everybody else wants to hear about. But I'm very interested to obviously talk about the things that you want to talk about. The idea of this in the first place was to actually get the audiences to direct where I go. You know, I've been sat in the car with my wife, my partner, driving to a talk, and she said, what are you going to talk about next, bro? I think we've got to see what comes out. Because that's how I do it. It's off the cuff. There is no plan. There's no screen show. There's no script. I've tried scripts, and I was going to be in a film. I don't know. You probably don't know really know about this. I was going to play a dodgy copper in a film, which a friend of mine is making. It's Brian Harvey, the XC17 singer, and he's making this film. And I was going to play Teflon Harris because nothing sticks. Well, there was no script. My whole bit in the film was ad-lib, completely ad-lib. Because I can't do scripts. And I don't know if you've ever seen, there was a bit I did with Deke. I went up to Deke's in Scotland, and I don't know if any of you know Deke, FKN News. Yeah? Well, you know, when he does it, he's good actually. I do like him, he does push boundaries. So the objective is that you dress up like a man in black with the sunglasses on, but there's a reason for them sunglasses, because you've got a script down here that you're reading, but because your eyes are facing that way, because you've got sunglasses on, you can't see the direction of your eyes, so you're actually reading this script. Well, we went through all these takes because I just couldn't do it. I'm like that, I kept looking up with one eye. I felt like one eye was looking there, one eye was looking there. This was really late at night, I'd had a smoke, so I said, it's not good. It ain't good. I went on Sky Television after having it. My mate said to me, you going on Sky tonight? I went, right, okay. Oh, you know? Yeah, I'm shitting my pants. He said, right, the best thing to do is when you go home, have a joint, have a bath. In fact, have a joint in the bath. Yeah, that sounds a good idea. I'll do that. 3 hours later, we turned up in the studio, I'm still buzzing off my nut. So I sits there, and there's this camera, and it's got a clock ticking down, 45, 44. And I'm looking at the doors, looking at the camera, looking at the doors, so when that gets to 30, I can still make it out them doors. And I really was. And I don't know, if you watch the actual thing, watch me very, very carefully, and you'll see I keep getting dry mouth. Drying up, I don't know if you know, it's when you're nervous, your mouth goes dry, you lose the saliva in your mouth. And especially when you've been smoking. But it's really weird because the gentleman who was interviewing me, I then went to lunch with him. I met him, there was a group of us got together, we went to lunch together, and I got to know him on a different level. And he was a really, really nice fellow. And he was playing devil's advocate that night, so, and that's what he was meant to do, that's part of the process. So, I've had some amazing experiences during my 6 years of this, amazing experiences. And I want to relate a few experiences now to you, but I would like you to direct what experiences I talk about, because the only thing I can talk about are my experiences. I can't talk about anything I've never experienced. So if you give me a subject and I haven't experienced it, I can't answer. Okay? So what would you like to know? Well, you know what? I could have put money on it. You're right.
I was just going to say, what was going through your mind when you were giving the presentation at the Lawful Rebellion Conference and stuff?
What was going through my mind?
Yeah, where were you coming from?
I was really, I suppose, in a lot of ways, when I look back at it and cringe, I was asking questions. I could see this stuff. I was asking questions. I'll tell you how this came about, right? That screen show was actually put together by a friend of mine and myself after we've had smoking sessions. And this was in his flat in St Albans. And he would be stood in there and he'd actually tell you because we had such a giggle doing it. Because we were playing with the constructs of words. And that's what grabbed my interest, was the words and the way that the words are put together. And then he said to me, well, we found this out. Another very dear friend of mine who I haven't seen for a long time is the anti-terrorist. I know him really well.
Yeah.
He was actually at one of my talks. This is hilarious. He sat in the audience and I said, who do you reckon the anti-terrorist is? And there's someone piping up, David Icke, and there's someone piping, he was cracking up. He was sat in the audience with him. And he's just cracking up. And mate, no one picked up it was him. I won't say his first name. I can't, there's a reason, because it's because of his job. He's a Hollywood actor.
No way.
That's all I'm saying. But he's a Hollywood actor. That's absolutely, I won't lie to you, I don't lie, he's a Hollywood actor. when I was talking to him, he was very involved in commercial redemption. I don't know if you know this, you might not know this, but he was involved with commercial redemption with a couple of other guys. And I got invited to a meeting in, I can't remember where we were, sure it was Nottingham. We were up in Nottingham, and me and Richie went up. And I sat in this, and I was invited, and there were like 500 quid for the weekend. And I sat there, and what I was actually witnessing, and I sat very quietly, sat in the corner, and I just sat, and I saw very, very desperate human beings that would have struggled to find 500 quid, but they found it. And they were being given information that they didn't comprehend, they did not understand the stuff. And it was being given too quickly. There was no stop points, there was nothing, just dum dum, and I was puzzled. I didn't know what the hell I was watching, listening to. There was distress. So at dinner time, we went out and got something to eat. And I was standing outside having a fag, and the anti-terrorist, as you would know, came out, and I was speaking to him. And I said, I was very honest with him, and I said, I'm just seeing a lot of desperate people who haven't got a fucking clue what you're talking about. And he said, well, we are trying to do that. And I said, well, really? And I could see he was very, very uneasy with what he was doing. There was a moral issue in him. He was very uneasy. It is. I haven't spoken to him for ages.
Fucking Dana society.
What I picked up on was this moral issue that was going on inside him. And after we spoke, he went back in and he was doing a presentation with his two. Now the other two fellas, I didn't really know that well. So, unbeknownst to me, the objective was for me to put this stuff on TPC. That was the objective. I didn't know that at the time. What it was basically, they were going to use me to use TPC as the platform it is, to out there, obviously, what they want to do, and to get more people in with, to pay their £500. Because if you work it out, if you've got an average, you've got 20 of them there, £500 a hit, I don't need to do the maths for you. That's a fucking good weekend's work, isn't it? Seriously, that is a good weekend's work. I got offered 40,000 for a weekend's work. This was about 3 years ago. I got offered £40,000 for 1 weekend's work. And that was to tell leading businessmen all the loopholes I know about. All the legal loopholes I know about. Because from the age of, funny enough, we'll talk to this about, from the age of about 7, I worked out very, very quickly how things were structured and how you get around things, how you don't have to do it, and there's other ways and bits and pieces. And what I used to, I realised that there was a form of authority that you couldn't buck, even though I wanted to buck it, but I did realise that that didn't stop you. You could bend rules as long as you didn't break them. And I worked that out very, very quickly as a kid. So what I started to do is I started to look at legal loopholes some years ago, and I discovered tons of them, absolutely tons of them. And then I decided that I had this moral dilemma in me. Yeah. If I had my hammer, this is where the fucking autism will come in. You see it? Right. So I had all these legal loopholes that I was dealing with, and then I had a moral dilemma. Now I've been offered 40 grand, and 40 grand will go a long way in my life, because of the simplistic life I lead. 40 grand is going to go a long way. But then I'm going to be giving them information that's going to allow them to rip you off even more. I can't do that. I can't do it. Or what?
Or sew it up.
No, we wouldn't. No, they would use this because it was phenomenal, this information. It was so... years ago, I told the audience last night, I was a bank robber. I'm 19 years old, I was a bank robber. I never used to wear masks and go with a shotgun, like most of the people with my accent, like Danny Dyer and all that. Don't do it, none of that. What I used to do is use paperwork, just a really simple piece of paperwork, one piece of paper. And basically what it was, it's all to do with false IDs and stuff like that, which you can get 10 a penny. You can get driving licence, passports. It's simple if you know the sort of. And it's very, very simple to do, and it's only a matter of asking questions. And then what you do is we used to do this, we used to formulate a letter from what would look like an employer, saying that you were going to be paid X amount of pounds at the end of the month on a certain date. So and then you open a bank account against the strength of that. So what you do is you let that run for a little while, and what happens is you basically, because of the way their system worked then, because of the lack of communication, because there wasn't no intranet, there was no internet, they couldn't communicate with each other, each branch, the way that they can now. And the computers were localised. They weren't nationalised, they were localised. So if you've got a local branch here in one town, it wasn't connected to a local branch in another town. So you can basically get money out of them every single day on the strength of what you're going to get at the end of the month. The trick is not to go in after you're meant to have got the money, put it in the bank. Because otherwise you get called into the manager's office, which I did get called into the manager's office because I was greedy and made the mistake. And I went in there and we basically had a very interesting conversation where I basically said he wanted his money back, so well, you're not getting it back. And there's nothing you can do about it. Which he agreed with me. There was nothing he could do. Because I realised there's a massive difference between civil and criminal. Massive, massive difference. And that's what I used to play with. I used to play in the civil world, not the criminal world. Because the criminal world comes down on top of you, but the civil world, you've got no power whatsoever. You've got to fuck on. And I realised that very, very quickly. So I was doing it, but then I moved into all different directions. Because once you've opened up an avenue where you can do this sort of stuff, and I was only doing it in getting girls' knickers. That's all I was doing it for. Because to flash the cash, and that's what I was doing it for. And I'll be absolutely honest with you, I won't lie. Then I moved into other avenues, and then when I look back at this some years ago, and I look back at what I did, because I have no remorse whatsoever. I am classic autistic. I have no remorse whatsoever. I had nothing at all. I would literally rip anyone off. I would do anything I possibly could for my own gain with no remorse. I didn't give a fuck. Didn't care. You know? And I could, you know, and you look at that mentality, that's a really serious mentality, but what am I describing? Fucking hell, come on, it's obvious. MPs, civil servants, police, they do exactly the same. I was doing what they do. And what actually happens is, that's what I'm trying to say. What I found is, and this was interesting because I was fighting things, and as I was fighting things, I was becoming what I was fighting. I was adopting their approach, I was adopting their mannerisms, their remorse, you know, the lack of remorse. I was adopting these things. It was affecting me. It was like an infection. And I found this really, really interesting because there was a really interesting incident with a motorbike my son bought. And anyway, he's bought this bike and he's brought it home and I said, how much did you pay for that? He said, 200 quid. And I've gone and looked at it and said, there's no fucking way you pay 200 quid for that. And I do know a lot, I love motorbikes, so I'm quite up on them. So I'm like, I'll let it go. That's been nicked, I know it. Anyway, I let it go. Because he's bought it in good faith, supposedly. But he's a good lad. So I do know now, he did buy it in good faith. I said, mate, that's slightly too good for 200 quid. Now, if he'd said 700, I'll buy it. Slightly. Anyway, this was at the beginning of the weekend. On the Monday morning, I opened the door, 2 CID officers for St Albans. We've got a warrant searching premises. Well, I do something, and it's a habit, I'll do it. What I do is I step outside, shut the door behind me. I can't help it, it's just something I do. Especially, and it doesn't happen all the time, but at very specific times it happens. And I just step outside, shut the door, and say, right, can I have a look at the warrant? Yeah, mate, yeah, have a look. So I'm having a look at the warrant, and I say, we're right. So he's given me this warrant, and I'm reading this warrant, and I said, yeah, okay, and it's stamped up, so I'm looking for everything, because obviously this is the stuff I'm into. And he says, this is about a motorbike, and I went, fair enough, yeah. I said, I had my suspicions about it. I said, yeah, it's out there in the back garden. I said, has it been nicked? He said, yeah. I said, well look, my lad's bought it in good faith, as far as I'm aware. He said, well look, we're not worried about it, we've got the bike. You know, it's here, you've got no objections with us taking it. I said, no, obviously, if it's some lad's poor bike and it's been nicked, then I want him to have it back. You know, that's a decent thing to do. So anyway, He said, we've got a warrant to search the house. I said, well, no, you haven't. You've got a warrant to search for a bike and paraphernalia regarding the bike, and you haven't got a warrant to search for my son. And he said, well, no, we've got a warrant. I said, no. The warrant's literal, it's explicit. Look at the words. Search the bike, look for paraphernalia of the bike, i.e. gloves or a helmet. It doesn't say you can search my house for my son. So your entry to my house regarding my son is denied. You're not going in there. Very politely said it to him. He says, well, yeah, I see your point. Anyway, he says, we need a statement from you. I went, well, I don't do statements. And he instantly turned to my partner, Hev. Instantly, he looked at her. And she said, well, I don't really want to do it. I said, well, you don't have to do it if you don't want. We haven't done anything wrong. But if you want to make a statement, because I can't take away what she wants to do. She wants to do something, and that's down to her. It's individuality, she wants to do it. I said, but if you do a statement, I said, go and get a bit of paper from indoors and write it on a bit of paper. Oh, no, we need this special paper from out our car. You don't say things like that. So why, has it got fucking gold on it or something? Why is it so fucking special? It's only a piece of paper. Oh, no, it's got this stamp on it and that and stuff. I said, fuck off. Get a piece of paper, write it out on it, don't sign it and give it to him. He said, oh, no, we can't have that. We've got to have this and it's got to be signed. I said, no, it hasn't got to be signed. And I said, don't sign it. Really, seriously, if you want to sign it, but you don't have to sign it. The other copper stood grinning. He said, you know, I like you, don't you? He said, you don't have to sign it. He was absolutely honest. He realised what was going on. This bloke was trying to form my message and she has to sign this thing. He was being honest, because you don't have to sign it. And he realised, and it was really interesting, because when they called the truck to get the bike, I got talking to him. And we walked up the path in my back garden, and the patio door was open. Not once did he attempt to go into the house or anything. It was completely diffused, and all it was because I made a joke about something. I was completely honest when he said, where's the bike? I've got nothing to hide. I explained about my son. They did want to interview him, but they never bothered in the end. So I found that very, very interesting, that this would happen. And there's been a couple of, now another time, I opened the door, he was a little shit. And anyway, we got, something had gone on, and he'd been involved in it, and he had actually nothing to do with it. He was done for being, what do they call it when you're accessory after the fact. The fact he knew that it had happened, he was convicted on that. So then, couples come to the door, there's two of them, and the woman I was talking to, I opened the door, and I didn't feel threatened or anything. I opened the door, and her attitude was awful. So I said, I don't know why you're giving me this attitude. I said, I've done nothing to you. I said, do you want to search the house? What for? Where do you want to search? Your son's bedroom. Why? We can't tell you that. I said, well, you're not going to search my house unless you tell me what you want to search for. Anyway, she started to get really uppity, and the bloke, I always remember it, his name was Lazarus. I always remember it, that was his name, and I found that really interesting. I've never heard the name. So I'm looking at his name, I'm looking at him, and he's really kind, he's really gentle. She's been a right cow. Yeah, like your missus when you've done something wrong, she really gives you that. I was actually, funny enough, distracted from that just for 1 second. I was talking to my 12-year-old the other day, and I actually given him the best bit of advice he could ever receive in his life. Do not fucking argue with a woman, you ain't gonna win. And you don't, you never win. You concede every time. They're too powerful, too powerful. Don't argue. So anyway, she was nasty. She was a nasty. So, in the end, this started to get quite shirty. I was getting shirty because of her attitude. It was rubbing off on me. So, Hev come into the hallway, saw that I was getting rattled, and I've got very, very violent temper. So she saw I was getting rattled, she realised that this could get quite nasty very, very quickly, because I snapped. They call it a black Irish temper. There is no warning, there's no in-betweens, it just goes. And afterwards, I'm generally very, very upset, end up in tears because of what I've done. But I can't stop it. If it starts, I can't stop it. That's awful. So I do my damnedest now to keep it at bay. It's a fucking monster. It's awful. So this is when and funny enough, this is when I started to realise about the monsters we carry, that I realised and the monsters in us. And it's all about, so this is what I was reflecting on. Well, she's going to go up the stairs. And I said, will you do me a favour? Would you take your fucking shoes off? We can't do that. I said, well, you just walked across my drive. You might have mud on your shoes and walk out my fucking carpet. What are you going to do? Clean it afterwards? Because she's brought this out of me. She's giving me shit. She's going to get shit back. Anyway, this Lazarus geezer's trying to calm me down. And my missus is trying to calm me down. I said, no, this is out of order. I said, he's done nothing wrong. This is out of order. Anyway, Hev, in the end, goes upstairs with the copper. The lady copper, I'm with the male copper. And he's trying to talk to me, and he's talking down to me. Now, and he's not being respectful. Even though he's trying to be polite, he's not quite getting there. Well, what he's actually doing is just clicking fucking switches in me, because I'm ready to take his fucking head off his shoulders. He's gonna get it. I'm fucking furious, raging. And I can feel every ounce of the muscles in my body tensioning up, because I'm gonna go for it. So he's realised what's going on, and all of a sudden there was a switch in me. I changed, my whole demeanour changed, and I said something to him. I can't even remember what I said, but I realised I'd got inside his fucking head. And once I got inside his head, I was going to beat the fucking shit out of him inside his brain. And all he could say to me was nurture or nature, nurture or nature. And it's all he kept, and he was broken. He kept saying to it, fuck it, I let rip. I said, you fucking corporate tosspot. You work for a fucking company, you're a miserable excuse for a fucking human being. And a torrent of abuse come out of my mouth, because that's what happens. You know, I'm the antithesis of both things. I'm the ultimate in kindness, politeness, decency and respect, but I'm also a fucking monster on the other end of it. And all human beings are exactly the same. There's not one of us who's different. If we actually admit it. And if we actually look back on our lives, we can see the transition period.
Yeah.
Transition periods that we can actually go back and say, well, do you know what? You know when I was talking to Matey, I was a wanker. I really shouldn't have talked to him like that. That's terrible. Do you know, I'm actually going to phone him up and say sorry. You know what I've done? No, but it's true. And that's what I found going on in my life. Before that point, I didn't give a toss. I didn't give a fuck. I didn't care. I really didn't care. So that was amazing. So all these experiences interesting experiences with the police, like I said, on the motorway. And so what I did is, over a period of time, is worked out that if you actually use politeness and kindness, you get further than you do if you use abruptness. Even though they're bringing the attitude to you, don't bring the attitude back. So what I've done is, I've worked out, and I do this now, the more angry they get, the more polite I get, and the more kind I get. And it counteracts it. It's very, very interesting. All of a sudden, the uniform peels away, and you get to the human being inside the uniform, inside the costume, and you actually start to communicate with them on a different level. And it's like I would absolutely 100% guarantee that we live in a fucking psychiatric ward and every human being is fucking schizophrenic. Because of the changes that can go on in us in a split of a second that we have absolutely no fucking control over. Nothing at all. We can be sad, happy, angry, and back to fucking sad in the split of a fucking second, in the blink of an eye, with no control. Well, that is the absolute definition of schizophrenia. It really is. So I sort of worked out that it's this kind approach. It's about this kindness and all this what was going on. And there's so many incidents I remember now, and that's what I was told. A very dear friend to me once told us it's about reflection, it's about looking back, look in the mirror, see what you've become. And it was like my daughter, there's a horrific thing happened. My daughter, who lives up in Yorkshire, her mum died of heroin overdose. And it was a big shock to me. It was a big shock to her, obviously. But it's a long story, but basically I'll tell you very basics of it, and this is before, again, I knew anything. My daughter was taken away from her because of the situation. She was really, really not being looked after. They took her away. I was informed, at the time I had my company, I faxed over my passport and my driving licence to them to prove who I was, and I had to prove who I was. There was a 4-year court case, 4 years it took. and I accused the social services of delaying it. They said to me, this is about your child, this is about your, the welfare of your child. I said, the welfare of my child is to be with her dad. That's the best welfare my child can have. You're delaying this deliberately, and I want to know why you're delaying this. We were driving 150 miles to go into court for 2 minutes and then drive 150 miles home. We were doing this every 2 weeks. And this went on for all that period of time. It was ridiculous what we went through. We finally won. We won the case. We did it. Everything was done. Chelsea calmed down.
Well done.
This is what they do. And this was incredible. We had my daughter. She was with us for about 6 months. We completely rearranged the house, because obviously we had a girl now coming into a male environment, and the rest of them, they're all boys. So except my other daughter, they were all boys that lived. There was Josh and Lee, and there was Jamie at the time. So we're bringing Chelsea. Chelsea's of the age you can't put boys and girls together in the same room. So we've had to literally rearrange top half of the house, which we did. She was having, at the time, my mum was still alive, and she was having these. The mum was coming down every 2 weeks, and they were meeting for the day and then coming back to us. And then what would happen after that? We'd have a week of hell. Literally a week of hell. Couldn't work out what the hell. She was brilliant up to that point. See, a month, week of hell. We'd go another week, perfectly right, we'd get out. And it was this one off. I know PMT and all that, but come on, let's take the piss. I'm not, no, you're nasty. Any woman who tells me they're not nasty when they get that bit, I'll tell you what, my missus, she turns into some fucking devil. She really does. And do you know what the worst thing a man can say? Making his comment on it. Do not comment on PMT when a woman is going through it. You do not do it. I'm going to instruct my son on this very clearly. You just agree. Agree and agree. And you can't help it. I know you can't. But you know what? I reckon men go for it as well. I reckon you do 1 week, we do fucking 3. I actually said this to my missus. I said, you know, there's a lot of these people say, you got blokes who've got to get...
Shut up!
Blokes who've got to get in touch with their feminine side. You must have heard this. This is, they say, oh yeah, blokes have got to get in touch with their feminine side. Coming out again. Feminine side. I said to my missus, I said, yeah, I don't mind doing it. I just didn't bargain on the fucking period. Well, what happened with this is, there was meetings going on between the social services in Chelsea, and we wasn't aware of what was going on. And one day the social services came to the house and they were talking to Chelsea, and Hev, being the nosy cow she is, went upstairs and listened. She listened through the door. And she came back down and she said, that social worker is asking Chelsea some very, very odd questions. And I said, okay. So anyway, she went to a meeting with her mum. She came back, this is an 8-year-old child, walks in and says, I feel like I'm losing my identity. I'm like, what? Losing my identity? And what it was, she was from the north of England. And obviously we live in the south of England. Obviously, northerners speak different to southerners. The same as the Welsh speak, dialects. And what she was saying is that she felt like she was losing her identity, losing the identity of being a northerner because she was living down south, and she would ultimately end up talking like us. Where's this coming from? This is not an 8-year-old child talk. And then the blow was about 2 or 3 weeks after, she suddenly declared she wanted to go home. So I had to sit her down and say, Chelsea, you can't go home. You can't. You're not possible. Your mum, you're never going to be able to go back to your mum's. And she couldn't get it. She couldn't understand it. And I said, well, you can't because of the situation. You're going to end up in foster care. She said, I want to go home. I said, well, if that's what you want, then go. I had to let her go. Because the second she made the application to the social services, because I don't know if you know this, you might not know this, this is very fascinating. If you're involved in a court case with the social services and one child is taken off of a parent, the social services take on the role of a parent. They take 51%. You only get 49. So any ultimate decision that's made is made by them at 51%. You don't have a say. So if a child applies to the social services to be taken away from me and taken back home and put in foster care, they will do it. Well, what I realised was they were manipulating her for the last few months for this outcome. This is what they were doing. So we had to go to a court case, and I actually took the two social workers to one side. And I had to be very careful because one of them was guardian. You know what I'm talking about, okay? You've got to be very careful with, because they'll use the racist issue with you. They will use it, and they're very clever at using it as well. You might not express anything. You've got to be very careful what you say, how you say it. And being like I am, I had to keep my cool as much as I possibly could. So I took her to one side. So I've got Chelsea's social worker, I've got her manager. And I... Fucking forgive me, sir. Is this something to do with being liver puppies? Do you have weak bladders? Lucky I like it. It's like so I took her to one side and said, look, we've had a lot of problems during this. I said, you've caused me a massive financial loss. You've caused me hell on. This is now my daughter, he's going to leave. What the hell is going on? And I said, you have deliberately manipulated a child to go against her own flesh and blood to go into foster care. I didn't know how much foster carers get. I didn't know the scam at the time. I didn't realise none of this. I didn't know. These are the social services. They're meant to be doing the right thing by my child.
Shareholder.
It's very fascinating. So I basically said, not knowing, you've got to remember, I knew nothing. So I basically said, I've got a problem with this, and I'm going to prosecute you. I'm actually going to privately prosecute the pair of you. I will use every bit of money I've got at my disposal to prosecute you because of what you've done. And the really interesting thing is, because the manager smiled at me and said, you can't. We're immune from prosecution. What? And what she said is, you have to take the social services as a corporation whole, and you can't take an individual. Didn't even know what I was being given. This is an experience. I'm relating to experiences. I didn't know what I was being given at the time. I didn't realise what that meant. A few years down the line, I knew what it meant. And that's what I'm trying to say. Is where I am now is by reflection, by looking back at my life experiences and realising what I picked up on the way, but didn't realise I'd picked up. Yeah, I'll give you an example. Right? I love motorbikes. And I had a KTM 125 motocross that had been put on the road. And the daytime I met MOT, he said, the lights don't have to work, as long as you've got another plate, it's fine. I'd rebuilt it. It blew up. It blew up while I was on it, which was even more, it was brilliant actually. So, and then all of a sudden the back wheel locks up. Really funny, yeah. No, because he's like, it takes you by shock when it happens and you wonder what the hell's going on. And what it done, the big end bearing had seized, the whole thing just locked up. Anyway, I rebuilt it, stuck a tank on it, stuck a seat on it, it's got no side panels, nothing, it's literally a skeleton. So I jumped on it, didn't even fix the seat down, started it up, and she's going on. I'm insured for it, so it's not a problem. I'm insured for anything. So jumps on it, bang, like that, goes out the drive, round the drive, all the way up, and goes down his side, all of a sudden, whoop, behind me. Fuck's sake, trust my luck. I'll test drive it, I'll get a pull, it's got no tax. I knew it hadn't got no tax. So I'm on the bike, and I'm sat on the bike, I won't get off the bike. That's the trick, if you ever ride the motorbike, police pull you up, don't get off. Sit on the bike. It's a big lead, get pulled up by the police, get out your car, shut your car, lock it. Lock your car. Because all of a sudden there's a different game going on. You've caused a different game. Because you can't open the car. They have to get a warrant to open the car. You can't even ask for your keys to open the car. If you get caught, you know, on a mobile phone, if you're talking on a mobile phone, they cannot take your phone off you and look at the mobile phone. They can't do it. They'll try, but they can't do it. You can actually say, no, this is my property. Thank you very much. You're not looking at it. They can't do it. You don't believe me? Go and read up on their own websites. Because they tell you this. You just don't go and look. They tell you all about this. So I was sat on the bike, and I says to mate, come on. I said, look, I live around the corner. He said, well, we flashed it. There's no insurance, there's no tax. I said, it is insured. I said, I am insured to drive anything. It's insured. So anything I get on is insured. So it's not that, it's me. I carry the insurance. Anything that I touch, I ride, drive, is insured. No, I'm not having that. I said, well, you better radio the station. This is one copper stood at the back yard. This copper here is into bikes. He's starting to, he don't do shit, he wants to talk about the bike. And me and him were having a right old banter about bikes, about KTMs and all different, I like ride bikes myself. I said, yeah, I do, but I'd rather have a crossover and all this sort of thing. So we're having a banter. Like in the back here, Mr. Corporisation as well, I'm on a radio for it, so he's radio for it, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, a few seconds later, across the radio, the car window was open, I could hear the radio, yes, Mr. Harris is insured to drive anything. I said, I told you I'm an honest man. And I said this before, I said, I'm an honest man, this is the honest truth. I am insured. I don't give a fuck what your machine says. I'm insured. So I got confirmation, he said, well, I've got to write you up for the tax. I said, come on. I said, I've been honest about the insurance. I've been honest. I've just rebuilt it. I'm just trying it around the lot and I'll take it home and then I'll get it taxed. It's only 15 quid at the end of the day. He said, no, mate, machine's caught you. Now the machine. What? Machine's caught me? If that machine flashes you, I've got to write you up. I went, whoa, you meant to carry discretion, didn't you? I said, that's meant to be the greatest part of valor, isn't it? And he's like, no, machine's caught you. You've got to give me a ticket. 60 quid. Ticket. I said, yeah, all right, give us it. All right. He said, you're not going to pay? No, not going to pay. All right, okay. Anyway, I got a bit cocky then. So, they pissed off. I started to bike up. Off and gone. It was quite a few months after, I get a reminder, another reminder being, it's gone to 90 quid. And this morning, opens the door, and there's a lady stood there, and she's caught baby. She said, I want 90 quid for you. I went, well, I don't want to give you 90 quid. She said, you got caught with no tax, it's 90 quid. I said, I find this really interesting actually, because it's only stayed at 90 quid. Normally it'd be up in 400s. She said, no, this is a police fine, can't do that. I went, that's very interesting, thank you for that information. Anyway, she said, well, I want 90 quid. I said, well, I'm not giving you 90 quid. Because I was being an arse. And I said, end the conversation, thank you. And I was very polite and said, goodbye, shut the door. She shouts, I'm going to get the police. I said, well, get the police. Anyway, a few minutes later, literally a few minutes later, I see this cop car pull up. Couple gets out, he walks down my drive, and I'm by the window. So I just opened the window a little bit. He says, you've got to give her 90 quid. I went, hold on a minute, let's put this into perspective. What were you doing before you got this call? That's none of your business. No, I want to put this into perspective. You have got here quicker. I said, my fucking van got broken. It took you a fucking day to get here. This is about 90 quid. There was 7 grand's worth of fucking tools in that van. Well, didn't want to know. He does. He's an automaton. Completely emotionless. I said, look, mate, this is between me and the court and not you. Oh, no. We're got to enforce this because you were given it by the police. Thank you very much for that bit of information. He says, right. He said, are you going to give it us? I said, no, we're not going to give you it. He said, right, I'm going to call the squad to come and break the door down. I went, whoa, hold on a minute, let's really put this into perspective. For fuck's sake. I said, one, if you break my door down, you've got to pay for it. He went, no, that's where you're wrong. He said, if I break your door down and you're inside, you have to pay. If I break the door down and you're not inside, we have to pay. I said, well, you go to the door, I'll run out the outside. I'll run that way, I'll go the back door. Then I'm not in the house, you've got to pay. didn't like that because that started because I was making a joke out of it. I said, right, no, let's really put this into perspective. How many men are coming? Right, you know, you're not entitled to it. No, how many of this crew are going to break my door down? And he wouldn't answer, so I said, well, let's say there's 4. So you've got 4 lots of wages, the vehicle they're coming in, the petrol or the diesel for the vehicle they're coming in, you've got your wages, your partner's wages, the vehicle you come in, you're only going to get 90 quid, you thick cunt! And I did start to get riled, sorry, you don't like that word. But you know what's so most interesting about that word? You worry more about that word than you do fucking poverty. We're more bothered about this that word than fucking poverty. So anyway, he said, you're going to have to pay it. He said, and he was going to radio this crew to come and break my door down for 90 quid. So I'm like, no, this can't go on. I turned round and I looked ahead. And I could see her face. And it broke me up. I suddenly realised what I was doing. So I went round and I opened the door and said, yeah, come in. I said, mate, I don't want to pay. He said, well, you're under arrest. I said, yeah, okay, no worries, I'm not going to cause you any problems. I had shorts on and whatnot. I said, can I just go and get some decent clothes on? And I come in. As I was walking upstairs, and this is most interesting, I walked through the bedroom door and he was about to follow me. I said, whoa, 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 whoa. I said, I ain't going nowhere, mate. No, I've got to go. I said, mate, stand there. I said, I'd like to get dressed in privacy. Please? And the second I said please, he reacted and he stayed there. So I shut the door, and 130 quid in the drawer, and that's all we had. That was for food, everything, £130. And something inside me said, pay. Just said, pay it. And the image of Heb's face, and what I was doing there. So I opened the drawer and I took 90 quid out, and left the 30 quid that was there. I walked out and said, mate, I'll pay it, don't worry about it. I said, look, I want you to know this. I want you to know that you are now taking the food from my children's mouths. Yes. And he said, I don't give a fuck, it's the law. It broke me. I was broken. At that point, I just wandered down the stairs. The bailiff went to walk in the house. I said, no, I'll come out with you. I put the money in her hand. She gave me a receipt. I wouldn't take the receipt at first. She said, have the receipt. But she could see how broken I was. I took the receipt. I went back in the house. Went back on the settee and cried like a baby. Not because of what they'd done, but the fact that I looked around at my partner and seen her face and what I was putting her through, just because I was going to make a point. And it was wrong, what I was doing. It was wrong. And that's where a big change for me happens, because when I went through that, I suddenly realised there must be another way to do this. There must be another way to solve the issues that the world face without having to do what you suggested earlier. You know, I see where you're coming from. I've been there. I've fought these bastards tooth and nail. I have. Do you know how fucking close I've gone to going down Westminster? Tell you, you are looking at the fucking prime example of a terrorist, because I've blown the bastards up. I would Semtex them. I'd have them all out. I wouldn't hurt anybody. I would never hurt a human being. I try not to. I've done too much of that in my life. But I would Semtex that building in a blink of an eye. And every fucking church, synagogue, Masonic lodge, anything. There's a passion in me. That anger that I was explaining earlier, and I saw your reaction about that anger. I was watching your reaction, it was very, very interesting. I was watching everybody's reaction because you know you've got that anger as well, haven't you? You know how strong it is as well. What I've done is I've guided that into passion. You know, you'll see sometimes, if you see any of the talks that I've done, you'll see sometimes this anger come out of me. And it really does. I will roar like a fucking lion. Because I feel it build up with me. It actually, when I stood on that stuff, you know, everyone said, when I cried at Stoke, it was, you know, it was false, it was put on. I can promise you it wasn't. Because when I look out there, and I look look and I realise what the world is like and what humanity does to itself every single day, uncompassionately, I want to cry. I don't actually want to be here. I don't want to be part of it. I don't. And I've tried to remove myself from this world more times than you could possibly imagine. I've took enough tablets in my life to kill a fucking elephant. Because I don't want to be, I ain't got a bottle to fucking string a rope up and name myself. I ain't got a bottle to jump on fucking, but I ain't got a bottle to do it. So I will take what everyone deems as a coward's way out.
The cliffs round here are quite good.
Hey?
The cliffs round here are quite good.
Yeah. I'm away from that now.
You don't need to do that.
No, I'm away from it. I needed to go through it though, because I needed to experience the selfishness of it as well. I needed to experience the selfishness, looking at my family and then feeling the way I was and allowing my family to bring me back to it. I'll tell you what, if you want to talk about a long-suffering partner, me and her have been together for 15 years. She's put up with at least 5 times that I've cheated on her. She has sat by a hospital bed while I was in a coma because of what I did to myself. And that was about 10 years ago. You'd be amazed at the stuff I've been through and amazed at what I've done to other human beings to get to where I am now. It's absolutely incredible. If you knew me 20 years ago to you knew me now, you'd say, definitely ain't me. I was the epitome of a fucking arsehole. I was a liar, a cheat, anything. I've done things that most of you would not even imagine doing. Very, very interesting. But all of that I had to go through to become what I am now, to hold what I hold in my heart now. Because and people say, man, I hear comments. I hear comments and they say, I love this one, I'm not afraid to die. Love it. The arrogance of it. So my comment is, right, have you died? Have you experienced it? Because the only thing you'll know whether you're going to fear it or not fear it is when you actually go through it. Before that point, you can't fucking comment on it. But we seem to like to, and that's like a sort of, I don't know, it's like a brashness that we bring out to protect us. Like, oh, I'm frightened to die. I'm fucking hard, don't we? We do, I say it every day. And that's the attitude they use, and that's the attitude. What I'm trying to do is just to show you that there's a path. What happens is, when you go through what I've gone through, I don't want you to go through half the things I've gone through, but over the last 6 years, I've looked at everything to understand how the world we live in was formulated, why it's this way. That also gives me the way that it can be undone, a very simple way of doing things. I had to go through all the free man bit, I had to go through fighting authority, I had to go through it to understand it all. I had to know how far they will go, how far they will breach the rules to get what they want, how far they will turn the rules around on themselves so the rules suit them again if you found a way through. I had to do all of this to understand it, because if I don't do it, I don't understand it, I haven't got a right to talk about it. Because otherwise it's speculation. What I'm going to talk about in the last part of this, which is really probably the last thing I ever say live at this moment in time, is speculation, a lot of it. But I need to say it. I need to commit internet suicide. I can't do it in real life, so I'm going to fucking do it on the internet.
So what gave you the drive to the first place?
Do you know, I don't know. I've tried to work it. I've been asked this so many times. I don't know. I remember the key part for me was I was working on a roof. I was cutting a roof down a big job we were doing at Hammersmith Lane with. And one of the lads went to university, and we got to know the family quite well. We were there a long time. We built a big lump on the side of their house, and they had a lovely hand-cut roof. And what we built, the extension, there was a fly-lit roof. With anyone who's a carpenter, the more complex the roof, the more fun it is, because it gives you something to get your teeth into. And hand-pitched roofs are a thing of the past. The tradesmen don't do it anymore. It's not done. They just buy fucking roofs off lorries and just plonk them on with a crane. We're given 4 walls, or 5 walls, or 6 walls. The plate goes on top of it, which is bedded down. You get a bedded plate, then there's a pile of timber. And you literally shift the timber up scaffold and build the roof. And it's a wonderful thing to do, but it's a dying art. So I'm doing this down there, and one of the lads walked up to me and he said, "You might find this interesting." And he gave me loose change, about 9/11. He just gave me the DVD. And I was like, okay. The weirdest thing was, that's here. Up here, I was working on another roof the very day of 9/11, on the same road. Because the this is, but I've got what they call it a military humour. We were talking about this with a couple of my soldier friends last night, who are ex-soldiers. I've got military humour. Do you know what military is? A very dark sense of humour. I can't help it. I'm sorry. It's just, and I won't apologise for it because I just can't help it. I just got. So we're called off the roof. Something's going off in America. So I stood there, and it was very surreal. Obviously, you know, the amazing thing is, most people remember where they were when that happened, which is quite incredible. I'm watching it on the television, and we've come down. First plane's gone in, and the second plane just gone. So we're like, we haven't seen the first part of it. We just see the building on fire, and then obviously down one comes, down the other one comes, and I'm like, what's going on? Shaking my head like. But there was a shot of the whatever it was, and it looked like scaffolding was up. So I said, fuck me, the Americans are fast. I've got the fucking scaffold up already. I can't help it. I don't know. It's not right. You know, 3,000 people died, but I can't help it. I'll tell you a story, right? And this is absolutely true. My stepdad was a para in his national service, and he went to the Suez Canal. He was in the Suez Canal conflict in Egypt, and he's wonderful. He tells me the most wonderful stories. And he said they were out there, and if someone dies, they have to bury them the same day because of the heat. There's nowhere to keep them because they're basically living in tents, aren't they? So anyway, he said there was a card game between this sergeant called McGee, a cook, and a couple of others. They sat around playing cards, and they're drinking copious amounts of alcohol. Sergeant McGee accused the cook of cheating, pulled out his service pistol, and shot him dead. It happens. You know, these things happen because, you know, you imagine the stresses and strains these soldiers are under, the shit that they go through. They've had a few beers, out comes a gun, solve the fucking problem. This stuff really does go on. And it's horrific. What he told me was this: outside the mess, there was a chalkboard that they would write the menu on. The day after, it said, "Please don't shoot the cooks, they're doing the best they can." Fucking terrible, but that's their sense of humour. And do you know why that sense of humour exists? Because that's the only thing that keeps them human. Because if they haven't got that sense of humour, they disappear into the darkness of the machine they've been made into. The killing. They will lose themselves. And I've got a very dear friend sat at the back who knows what I'm talking about. Don't you, sir?
I do. Sense of humour.
You have to have this dark sense of humour. And it's not, I know a lot of people could get very offended by it, you know, but humour pushes boundaries as well that other things can't. I don't know if you've ever watched satirical comedians. I grew up with a comedian, a very well-known comedian. Well, he's not as well-known as he used to be. I went to school with him, and his name's Rob Newman. Newman and McGow, he was with David McGow, he used to do his stand-up sketches. He now does the history of oil. It's meant to be one of the best things you could possibly go and see. It's meant to be really funny. He's a very clued up, very switched on guy. I haven't spoken to him for a long, long time. But I'm actually going to get tickets. I'm going to take everyone to go and see it, because I want to see it, because I love Rob to bits. I even remember back when we were school kids, his mum was a proper bitch to him, and literally she would leave him outside as a latchkey kid without a key, and he would get raped. We were from completely different social divides. He was middle England, I lived in a council house. He had a bungalow by the Wibbly Wobbly, because of the pub where a village I used to live. He lived there, and I was in the council. We would never interact. There was a divide in my village. There was a council estate here, and all the private houses were here. And no one integrated, no one mixed. This is a tiny village I'm talking about. But for some reason, me and Rob got friendly. And we were getting off the bus one day, coming home from school, and he was a year above me. In fact, he was 2 years above me. And we're coming off, and it's raining. And we got off the bus, and he said, oh shit, I'm going to stand out in the rain. I said, no, come on. I said, your mum will be all right about it. Come home, dry off, have something to eat, whatnot, she'll be fine. He said, yeah. I said, yeah, no, because my mum, she did. Anyway, so he came home, and that's how really our friendship struck up. He saw a different side to the council estate. He saw a different side to the humans that lived on the council estate, where we weren't all fucking scumbags who smoked drugs. You know, cannabis or whatever. Cannabis is not a drug, by the way. It's not a drug. Drug is defined by chemical compounds created in a laboratory. Hemp is fucking grown. So, if anyone says you're a drug user because you smoke cannabis, yeah, exactly. Yeah, very well done. Very well done. You've got a good art, that. Yeah, very good. No, so this is, like I said, you know, what I'm getting at is this. My advice to anyone is don't piss around with the police for whatever reason, and I'll tell you why. And if you are experiences I'm talking to, because they will do anything they want to do to you. And there is nothing you can do to stop them. Seriously. If you are taken to a police cell, if you're taken into a police station, there is no one there to protect you. No one. No one's there to protect you. What's really interesting?
Horror's here,
I really do, because when I do talks, like I said, it's a very interesting thing to do. Because, funny enough, someone sussed me out a minute ago. Well, I am. I'm a fool. I'm just a fool. I'm what you would call the court jester. I'm just a fool. Just a fool. You tell me what you want me to talk about, but you don't know you're telling me. It's really interesting. It's not coffee.
Yes, it's not.
Could I get a couple of here? I'll pay for it. Look, I love this.
You're right, you told me that.
Not my
Oh,
time.
should take this, didn't you?
It's not my time. Right. No, what I've done, I always find it very interesting because it's the last group that are left that are the most important. It's always the last group that are left in any talk, the core that gets left at the ones who have gone, yeah.
I think the others came for a bit of an illusion. That was it.
What they want is they want to know how to get off of stuff and bits and pieces like that. You know, and I've had a joke with all the audiences right across. What I do is I put an Algeria. Oh, did you get that? He did it, did he? No, he didn't get it. He didn't get it, did he, at all? No, it was really funny. Yeah. I am outrageous. I can't help it. It's part of my makeup. I'm quite outrageous. I was having a giggle with the audiences, and what I was doing is just before the breaks, I was actually telling them, get your pens and papers out, I'm going to tell you how to get off council tax. Right? And I really deadly serious, and they scramble for pen and papers. This is so funny. Seriously, they're scrambling, and then the bloke got his phone, he's going to put it in his phone. So I'm driving them, but really getting them, building them up. Wait to the right last minute, say, right, here you go. I want you to write this down. You ready? You're going to have to write these words down. And they're building up, and say, right, this is how you get off council tax. Tell them to fuck off. The faces, because they've just gone through, they've just gone through this manic thing. Oh, we were going to talk in Liverpool, which Dave and my friend here were involved in. And we were in this freezing cold church, and 3 of my friends were sat in the back who knew this was coming. They knew this was coming. And there's this gentleman sat at the back, and his wife. So they're overhearing the conversation, and he's going to his wife, where's the pen? Where's the pen? Where's your book? Come on, we've got to write this down. Where's it? So I deliver the punchline, and he absolutely splits his sides. He finds it absolutely hilarious. And all of a sudden, all that distraction, thanks mate, all that distraction that I've offered by saying it, he suddenly starts laughing, and none of it means anything anymore. No, there was a bloke, I was talking about religions, and he started to talk to me about Buddhism. Who was it, Bowden? Do you remember this?
Transcendental.
So he's talking to me, and I'm trying to be as polite as I can and answer his questions, but I don't actually know what he's talking about, which is really bothersome. So I'm standing there trying to be polite, you'll remember this. I was standing there, and I said in the end, I went, mate, can you do me a favour and actually explain that to someone who actually knows what the fuck you're talking about? And it's outrageous to say something like that. The audience exploded in a roar of laughter, but so did he. Isn't it funny that you could say something so outrageous, but they actually find it funny themselves? And I was actually being honest. I didn't know what he was talking about. And there's a lot of subjects presented to me when I come and do talks that I don't know what you're talking about, because I'm simple. And if you deliver these really intelligent things, you fox me. I haven't got a clue what you're talking about. I really don't. There's two sides to me, there's two parts of my story, and this is why I wanted to come home to tell my story. I'm going to tell you a story tonight that is ludicrous. It is a fantasy. It's even a fairy tale, if you want to call it. It really is. But I'm going to tell you it anyway. And for those of you who want to stick it on the internet, stick it on the internet. I want you to do it, because you will do what I want to happen, and it's called internet suicide. I'm going to make myself look a laughing stock. I'm going to act the proper form. But I'm doing it for a very specific reason. Very specific. But leading up to it, I need to explain a few things. So there's two sides to me. There's this very rebellious side of me that has gone through a path for 6 years to discover the things that I've discovered, and then ultimately came out with a conclusion. And that conclusion was, I am a slave. And there is nothing I can do about it. That's the conclusion I came to. And if you've got a different conclusion, that's your conclusion. You know, opinions are like arseholes. We've all got one. But it's true, we have all got one. But when the second that I accepted that fact, I saw the answer. But that answer involves my story. And that's what I needed to tie together, because there was two things. I've got this very factual thing going on, and then I've got a mate, a very dear friend who's a researcher, who's investigating me and my family. I've got some very special friends who seem to be incredibly right about things, and I don't know how the hell they know these things. I am so privileged to have the friends that I have and make the friends that I do. I was a loner all my life, and I was very frightened of the world, because my dad, up till 7 years old, loved me, and he was my world, and I only knew kindness. I didn't know anything else. I knew love and benevolence and all the wonderful things we're capable of. Then at 7 years old, he left. He died. My world collapsed. Because I suddenly realised that human beings aren't quite like that. Not all of them. Some of them are really nasty. If you've ever looked closely to me, you'll see that I've got a load of scars on my arm. This is what we call self-harming. I mean, no one can ever know this because you've never looked close enough. But you actually see, if you look in the light, you can see there's a load of scars down there. There's loads of scars here. There's scars all over the place. Because what I found is that if you harm yourself, human beings are kind. And I was craving the kindness that I used to know as a child. I couldn't find it. So I'd hurt myself. And the nurses that used to treat me, and the nurses, they were absolutely wonderful. They were beautiful, beautiful human beings, because the kindness they showed me, even though I deliberately hurt myself, I deliberately carved my arms up, this arm in particular, just to get that kindness. And everyone says it's an escape and a release, and I've talked to other patients and other people about self-harm, and I've tried to explain my perspective on it, that it's not a cry for help, you're just craving kindness. You're craving what human beings are capable of. And I find that exceptional, because I went to some extremes, some real extremes, to go through, to discover what I discovered. So my story is twofold. There's two parts of it. There's a very literal thing that's going on, and there's a literally storybook going on. That is madness, absolute madness. We recently know that the Pope has resigned, actually tonight. He's resigned, so, you know, and everyone is, there's a lot of talking about court cases and all this sort of stuff. But I don't actually see the reason the Pope has resigned is the result of court cases or anything like that, because you are taking the very people who make the law to their own courts. That doesn't work. I actually said that once in the BBC talk. I did that in London called Undermining Democracy, and they were telling me they're creating this legal fund, and they're going to take the government to court, and I actually said, well, what fucking court are you going to take them to that they don't own? Because they own them all. So it's a bit ridiculous. So, like I said, my life is completely two-part. Pope resigns. It's what happened a day before the Pope resigned, but it's the most interesting aspect to me. It's the fact that 400 Knights Templar marched into the Vatican and sacked the Pope. Because that's what they did. They sacked him. Obviously, he's allowed to resign, so they say his face, but he was sacked. That was a demonstration of power. If you have the ability or the power to sack a Pope, there is no one you can't sack. Now, hold that thought. Hold that thought. The Roman Catholic Church have been following a blueprint that was wrote by an Irish saint called the Prophecy of Malachi. Prophecies are not, they're blueprints. They follow prophecies as a blueprint. So they'll prophesy something and then do exactly what has been prophesied to make the prophecy fulfilled. It's called self-fulfilling prophecies. So the prophecy of Malachi talks about 112 popes. The last pope being Peter of Rome, he will be a black guy, which he's been set up as a guardian, he's been set up to be him. And then once the last pope takes his place, humanity will enter darkness. Now, I know this sounds absolutely, and this is quite funny, but we're now going to jump to a new Star Trek movie. This is a ridiculous jump, I know it is, but there is a reason why I'm jumping that way. Okay. The new Star Trek movie is called Enter Darkness. And the new Star Trek movie is about a man who would be seen as the Antichrist, the devil. Okay, he is one big, bad, nasty dude. He's been genetically modified. He is a master of psychological warfare. He fucks with your mind. He's a one-man weapon of mass destruction. He takes over the political federation and destroys it from the inside out. He becomes the big bad boss and ends up ruling the world. You're wondering where the hell I'm going with this. I'm worried, you'll get it. He says something in the film, which is very fascinating. He says, you believe, sorry, I can't remember the actual lines, I'm paraphrasing, I can't even remember it exactly. But what he says in the film is, you believe the world is safe. It is just an illusion. A comforting lie told to protect you. I am back. And I will have my vengeance. Guess what he's known as? John Harrison. It's called demonisation, demonising my name. Now you can say, yeah, right, okay. But I can say that because it could be happening. Whether it is happening or not, it's immaterial. And the reason I've told you that is because what I'm about to tell you is even more ludicrous. Really ludicrous. In 1966, between the 1st of August and the 2nd of August, just as the clock ticked, 2 children were born over there. The only 2 children to ever be born. 2 twins. My brother was the older one, and I was the second child born. I was born to a mother who is French and was a Carmelite nun who hadn't taken her vows. She was a novice. My father, or my dad, was a Templar. My mother was also a Templar. They were Order of St John of Jerusalem and also Order of John of Mount. We were taken from there 2 days after we were born. I was given to a lady in Hertfordshire, my brother was given to a family in Clerkenwell. I was born into an aristocratical family, the only aristocratical family the Cornwall's ever known. There's only ever been one. I was removed from the aristocracy, I can't even say the word, removed from my family to grow up as a working class man. I had to know this life. I had to know all the things that I would be affected by the monsters that control the world outside. So I had to appreciate, because if you're born into pomp and circumstance with a silver spoon in your mouth, you can never realise this, the same as you can't realise their lives, because it's about experience. You have to experience it to become it. You can empathise with a drug user, someone who's addicted to class A drugs, but you'll never understand what it is to be a drug addict until such time as you become one. The same as alcohol, same as any infliction. You have to experience it to understand it. The family that I was born into is obviously the Harris family. The Harris family, my family home, is a place which still exists to this day called Wilpedder, up the steeple, just outside Carver's Bay. So you go through Carver's Bay, there's a little lane, it's called Steeple Lane. If you go up there, there's a slate house on the right hand side called Wilpedder. Most of the houses in Cornwall were named after the mines. Wilpedder was named after the mine. When my dad died, I was 7 years old, my dad was 62. My granddad, who worked for the Consolidated Mines as an accountant, was born in 1866, 100 years before me. My uncle died of the effects of being gassed in the First World War, in the trenches in France in 1929. My uncle and my granddad both served in the First World War. My dad was born in 1911, and there was quite a few members of them. There was my Auntie Winnie, my Auntie Gert, they were twins. Cecil, he didn't like to be called that. And my family came from the Stedach in St Ives. That's where their house was in the end. And it was a council house, a miner's house, a standard's house. Still there to this day. There's a place called Nanjivin. You can go down to St Ives, you go up the Stedach to the top of it, and that area is Nanjivin. It actually says Nanjivin Terrace on the houses. It's still remembered to this day. My family was systematically stripped of everything that they had. And the memory of what they were was taken away because of something that happened a long, long time ago. In fact, 2,000 years ago. About a story that's not been told properly. But many Cornish remember this story from their ancestors. They'll remember it. And the story is on my side, and it's called the alternative story of Jesus. About two brothers. And my story involves something that is very simple, where one brother overhears what's going on and hears the creation of Christianity and what it's really being created to do. A control system that is going to control, in the end, will control practically the known world, because it will extend into other religions and extend into other religions. So in the end, 3/4 of the world population, or nearly a good percentage of all the world's population, are caught up in some form of belief system that points back to one place. He didn't like what he was hearing, so he left, and he came here, up onto there. And he was taken from there, and the 200 that surrounded him, up on that hillside up there, and he's apt that I tell you this story tonight, and then lights are off on that place.
It is a promise.
Pardon?
It is a promise.
So up on that hillside, 200 men, women and children, majority were women and children, were murdered. They were massacred because they wanted to be near this man, because of the truth he was telling. He was talking of truth. He was speaking out against what was being created. He was dissing the Jesus story because he knew it was lies. In this day and age, he'd probably been locked off by MI5 because that's generally what they do. The story is, I was born on that island and taken away from that island and had to live the life I've led to be able to do the job that I'm about to do. Because my job is to create a world of equality. My job is to create a world where we all live equally, where we take from the rich, we give back to the poor, and we create equal balance. This story is so involved, there is so much about this story, but what I'm trying to demonstrate is I could never work out how the hell any of this would be possible until I saw the Templar sack the Pope. And then I realised if they can sack the Pope, they can sack anybody. And there is only one position that actually needs to be sacked, and that's the Queen. She needs to be sacked because she hasn't ever done it. But when you actually break it down, I asked a question last night in Belfast. I waited a good 10 minutes for an answer and I never got the answer because we don't look at things simply enough. But I said, if you want to stop that political machine out there and you want to stop Parliament from doing it, how the hell do you stop it? And you can stop it in a blink of an eye. Because Parliament, if you notice, use a name for everything. It's not Parliament's revenue and customs. It's not Parliament's prisons. They use HM, and that is their source of power. If you change that source of power to a good source of power, then they have to do the right thing, and instead of ripping the poor to feed the rich, they will then have to rip the rich to feed the poor. And they have to do it because the highest point of power says so. If you go to the man in a skyscraper who smokes his £100 cigar, drinking his £500 bottle of wine, and sit down with him very politely and say, well, look, I've got this sentiment, I really want to see equality in the world, and I want to see everything that can be given for free should be given for free. Blah, 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 he's going to say, yeah, right, of course. But if you go in there and say, actually, well, I've got a greater power than you, and you've got to do it because I've just made it law. What I realised is we follow laws whether we realise we're doing it. I was talking just before the break, and I was in London, and I was actually in a private club. I know one of the gentlemen who's involved in the club, and it was cold, and I didn't want to go out in the rain and have a fag. So I said to the audience, there was only a few of us, and I said, does any of you really mind if I have a fag? And they all said, no, most of us smoke anyway. I said, great, I rolled up a fag on the stage and started smoking it. All the smokers in the room didn't do it. I saw how they conform without even knowing they are conforming. So you conform to law even though you don't even know you're doing it. You just do it naturally. So what if you could create laws that would correct everything, and in the end you do them naturally? What would you end up with? You'd end up with a system where you self-govern, which is what we all want to see. All you've got to do is change the process of law, the way the law works. To do that, you have to change the ultimate point of power. But unfortunately, within that process, there has to be a few things done. One of the things we have to do is we have to stop teaching our children about war. Because when we stop teaching them about war, war will never exist anymore. It's been forgotten. Once we forget these things, all the bad things, just stop reminding them. Human beings have this incredible ability to forget things if we're given a chance to forget it. And that's why we have Remembrance Day. That's why we have the films come out. That's why we've got the video games. That's why we've got the books, the plays, whatever we've got that repeats and reminds us. It reminds us of all this stuff. Because if they don't remind us, we would forget. We have that ability to forget.
There's no why history repeats itself.
Exactly. We use history to dictate what's going to happen next.
Some things lead to that.
No, they don't. Absolutely not. There is nothing that history has ever produced that needs to be reminded. We need to draw in a line in the sand and start walking a new path. A path based on equality and not fucking equity. History shows and demonstrates the power of equity. That's all it demonstrates. It's boasting. They are boasting about what they've done. And they boast about it every single day. Every single day. If we want to do things differently, then we have to draw a line in the sand and move on. But we've been told to do that, we will enter darkness. That's what we've been told. It's like, imagine humanity is on this train, and we're all on this train, and we're heading for disaster, and we know we're heading for disaster. It's common knowledge. We are going to head into disaster. It's going to crash, this train. Right? But there's a few on the train who are saying, whoa, 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 we can stop this. And the others are going, no, no, we're going to keep stoking the engine, because if we keep stoking the engine, we might crash through it and come out the other side okay. And then a few of us are going, well, no, let's actually, why don't we put the brakes on? No, 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 if we put the brakes on, we'll derail the train. No, let's put the brakes on slowly. And then when the train slows down that little bit, we'll increase the brakes a little bit more. And then we'll increase the brakes a little bit more. In the end, we can get the train to come to a halt, and then we can start going back the other way. Now, if you want to do that in the real world, then you have to find the point of power that's corrupt. You have to change that point of power. Once you change that point of power, everything leads on from there. Like I said, this is a ludicrous story. This is ludicrous. This is absolute insanity. I was born into a very, very powerful order, and I have no choice in my life. Because every time I try to leave this, I'm dragged back kicking and screaming. And I am kicking and screaming as well, because I do not want to do it. I don't want to do it. No, no, no. And I'm dragged back, and all the addictions start again, and the computers and everything. I know. And then the other day, when I finally got through this course of talks, and then the other day, this thing just hit me, and I went, no, I can't actually walk away now. I can retire. I can spend a wonderful time with my family, because what I'm talking about, if it's going to happen, if it will happen, and if it doesn't happen, I'll just end up with egg on my face. What's fucking new? Because most of them out there think I'm a nutter anyway, so what have I got to lose? The reason I was born there is because if you actually go back through very ancient Cornish history, or very ancient history, you actually look at what was developed, Cornwall never had kings. It had a duke. That's why it still has a duke today. A corrupt one. A stolen title from the Cornish people. And this duke was the servant of the people. He wasn't their ruler, because he didn't have to be, because of the way he allowed things to be. Everything that could be given for free was given for free. Everything. This concept can be seen in a number of places across the world, and that has just been destroyed. One again in Libya, again been destroyed because of the processes that a benign dictator was using to make sure his people got everything they possibly could. And they destroy it because it's not a democracy machine. It doesn't rely on religion and education and law. It's not the machine. It's not the Holy Ghost. It's not. It's just a whole thing. Now, if you take the processes, how would you like to have free public transport? But you can. How would you like to live in your houses free of charge? How would you like to wake up tomorrow morning and no matter what house you live in, it's yours? It's yours. There's no mortgage. No council owns it. It becomes yours. Instantly. There's no debt on it. No one can ever take it from you either. You go out and you want to go somewhere and there's a bus. And you can jump on the bus and you can go on a bus. Right, let's say, for argument's sake, someone comes along and says, well look, you know this road tax lot? Well, we're actually going to stop corrupt corrupt people building our roads and earning fortunes off of building our roads, and we'll actually do it sensibly, and it actually equates to about £2 a week. Would you pay that £2? What if it come along and said, well, actually, this income tax lark, we actually only need like £3 of you? Would you pay that £3? You know, the health service. You take all the corrupt managers out of the health service, and then you stick matrons back on wards to make sure the wards are clean. And you allow the nurses to actually do their jobs properly instead of filling out fucking paperwork. They spend 3 minutes with a patient, 10 minutes filling out paperwork. That's a bit backwards to me. Exactly. Right, but what if someone come along and says, no, you can actually do your job properly? Exactly. Exactly. And the nurse is given the time to spend with the patient who is in pain, who is feeling they need comforting. That's what the nurse is there for, not just to treat their illness, but to comfort them and help them through this transition that the illness is going to create in them. But if you take away all the corruption, all the bureaucrats, all the bureaucratic rubbish, and you actually look at this in reality, you can have this. But you have to change that point of power for it to happen. Because while that exists, as it is, they exist as they are, and they will only do what they are doing. They will never change until someone comes along and says, you have to do it, because that's the law. And if they don't want to do it, they're sacked, and one of you takes their place. Why don't, if you need a police force, because you need peacekeepers, because not everybody wants to play by the rules, but you should be picking your police from people you know and trust, who you know are honest and honourable, not having forced upon you that our corporate employees are basically a private political army to protect the aristocracy and the political machine. But you can have all this. And the point is, what I'm trying to say to you is, you are going to get this. It is going to happen. Now you can laugh at me, you can call me a liar, you can call me whatever you want, because it doesn't matter. Because I am willing to stand here, this moment, right now, in my home, literally moments from where I was born, and actually say to you, this is going to happen. I'm going to go out on a limb and tell you this is going to happen. Because I'm telling you what, by the end of this year, I will be the King of England.
Wow.
David Icke to myself.
What's your party called? What's your party called?
I ain't no parties. There are no parties. Politics is dead.
Just you?
Just me.
Never
like holding my heart. I will not tolerate, but there are certain things that come to this. And I promise you, and I want you to remember this, I promise you that when that church on that island burns, that is the start of it. I promise you, when that burns, that's the start of it. That's your sign.
How far away are we from that?
Not long.
Well, let's go now.
No. I've always imagined this. I'm doing a talk, and all of a sudden everybody's going, "Ah!" He smashed everything. No, it's ludicrous. But that's why I was born there, because that's actually where the true king is meant to be. There. That's what it was designed. It's the epicenter. Everything. You were talking about ley lines a minute ago. Where did all the ley lines come from? Where did they all emanate from? There. All this. It all emanates there. The whole biblical story, I promise you, happened here. It happened here. This is what William Blake was ostracised for, because he was hinting at it. This is why they demonised John Dee. This is why they demonised Alistair Crowley. They were all talking about this stuff, and it's not allowed to be talked about. You're not allowed to talk about this stuff. They've made Alistair Crowley out to be the beast himself. Well, I'm afraid they got it wrong, because I'm the fucking beast. I am the Antichrist, because I will fucking destroy everything that was made and created in fucking Christ's name. I will destroy it. Because once that is eradicated from this planet, once it's gone, it will never ever manifest again. Because that is the only thing that keeps you living as you should be living. Because it is the first ever corporation, it's the most powerful corporation, but an order of ordinary men and women decided to get together and stop it. And they've been doing this in the background for a long, long time. A long time.
John, just say it happened and like you took over England, what would happen to the Scottish people? Are you allowed to come?
This is interesting.
What
What I would do is, I'll tell you what I'll do. This is what I'll do. I'm going to take away the Welsh border. I'm going to take away the Scottish border. Ireland can be on its own anyway, because we should have fuck all to do with it. Right? Take away the Cornish border. I'm not being, no, I'll take away the Cornish border. Oh. Listen. Too far. Steps in the right direction. Yeah. And I will create the People's United Community in real life. An island of people united. No division through legal definitions of land. No division. We are one people of an island. It's about fucking time we realise it.
They call it the political map, and it's got to go.
Yeah. We can't deny this fact. We've been segregated. I go to Wales, and I go and talk in Wales and say, right, first thing I want to say to you is, Edward first come up here and give you a good fucking. I had nothing to do with it, so don't fucking hold it against me. It was 900 years ago. Nothing to do with me, so don't hold it against me. It's ridiculous. The English go and do what they do to William Wallace. I wasn't involved in it, so don't fucking blame me for it. It's ridiculous, these fucking things we hold on to. The past. History.
War.
Look what it holds. It creates division. That division is held to this day. You've just proved that by that comment. Them comments. Hello.
Oh no, I didn't mean it like that. I wasn't being.
Go.
That's
what? The reason it's mine is because I'm just going to pay for it.
I read something somewhere, I don't know where, in the last couple of years, that the grand conspiracy was that Rome was controlled from St Michael's Mount.
It's absolutely true.
I thought it was a ludicrous.
No, it's not. The Order of St John of Jerusalem's headquarters were there till 2006. They went back to Goa in 2006. The Cornish didn't even know.
I used to clean that place.
And look.
One day. Very good job. One day.
True Cornishman. Right. What's happened to this place? What's happened to Cornwall over thousands of years? What are your names? No. I was talking to Graham about this. What are your names? St this, St that. You've been Catholicised. Why have you been Catholicised? Because they're hiding a fucking secret about that place. Why do they call it St Michael's Mount? St Michael's Mount. Is it fuck? What do the Cornish call it? The Mount. We call it the Mount.
We call it stone.
Well, you call it what you want. So we don't know. They Catholicise. Why did they Catholicise? Go to the rest of England. Go to Wales. Wales has been Catholicised as well.
Ictus of Carnus is Greek.
That's not a very nice thing to say.
That's the name for that mountain.
Like to fuck away.
Ictus of Carnus. That was the mount. And the forest that is lying there.
That's it.
Yeah, it went down. That's all I have to say.
No, it's interesting. I'm throwing something cut that is completely ludicrous, and you're not laughing at me or calling me a fucking idiot or stuff like that. It's really bizarre. You know, you would expect that, wouldn't you? Someone comes out and says the things, the outrageous things that I've just said. We all know you're an idiot. Is it they ever come after me and say, well, I didn't tell them I'm the ex-patient of a fucking mental hospital. It's true. No, it's true. But that's why this place was pathologised, to hide the stories. That's why they did it deliberately. They had to mask everything. They had to hide everything away.
Is that why St. Piran ran in here?
It seems like St. Piran. I mean, how many of these can you play? I was walking past, driving past a signpost, and nearly every name was something. I'm like, you're having a fucking laugh. What's the matter with you? But it's so fascinating. And the Templar, what I understand from the information that I've received, and I don't know if you know anything about the way the Templar practices, and it's really interesting. I just don't want to exclude the guys, it's just that there. You probably do want to be excluded right at this minute. The point is, the Templars created banking, they created usury, they created credit systems, they created accounting. They then gave it to the church to use. But what the church didn't realise, they were skimming off the top. You don't create a system and not with the process of you being able to skim off the top. So what the world population of gold and monetary, because you don't ever put the monetary side into it, because the monetary side is all false. All bits of papers are just fucking little bits of metal you gold in your pocket, and the other bits are neutrons on screens. What really holds value is gold. Gold is the key thing. No, in this world it does. You can shut your head as much as you want.
Tin.
No. Tin is tin.
Tin's not a valuable commodity in the world.
Oh, come on. Go and have another bit.
Sorry, no, I'm sorry, you looked at me and
right. But gold is the most, it is recognised as being the most tradable, valuable commodity on the planet. What the Templar have been doing is skimming off the top. What the world has in gold residues is about 5% of what the Templar have. What happens when the Templar were disbanded? Anyone know the story about what happened when they were disbanded?
They were outlaws, weren't they? And they became pirates. That's where the word
This is
pirate.
Skull and crossbones. Skull and crossbones is a sign of a master mason. Double skull and crossbones is a Templar. But the Templar, would you know where the Templar, how they came about? They were just normal, everyday tradesmen and working men. And
They controlled the world's money because they had to check it for them.
Exactly.
And that's where you get the chance for them to check it for.
What happens is they've got all this money, but now that is going to be brought back. You've all heard about New World Order, haven't you? Yeah. Right, okay, well it's not a bad thing, it's actually a very good thing. Now you're really going to find this puzzling, but there will be a one world currency, just one currency. It's coming, definitely coming, and there will be sort of a one world government. Because you don't realise how many countries this place controls. We control 3/4 of the world's population.
But the Rothschilds control the money in this country.
Do they fuck? Do they fuck? They're puppets of the fucking chain who spend 20 hours a fucking day protecting their wealth. Because they're frightened some fucker's going to take it away from them. How do I know that? Because I've had dinner with one.
Who paid?
This is what they do. I like it. No, they made the dinner actually, which is even more fascinating. But they do. They spend 20 hours a day. They're nothing. They're puppets in a chain. They seriously are nothing. They were given. My partner's family came from, were given a part of Buckinghamshire for helping William the Conqueror conquer England. Her name is Fawkes, which is a derivative of Fawkes. She, her top of her family tree up to the 17th century is Captain James Cook. She's got a hell of linkage all the way through. Now I call her a traitor. But, because that's me, I can't help it, she's a traitor, but I find it funny that...
What does she call you?
Tosser, deluded, you name it. I get called everything. No, she doesn't. She's a warrior. You don't mess with my missus. I don't mess with my missus. She is. If you wanted to see an image of Boudica, that's my missus. In fact, that's every woman. Did you know, if you actually go back through history and you do, if you actually look at subject matter, you actually find that the most fiercest warriors in the world were women. They were women. Absolutely incredible. You are one vicious breed when you really want to get going. I wasn't. No, I could actually. Yeah, you can emphasise that kind of thing that I wouldn't do. Yeah. Huh? Yes, that's my favourite side. It's there. I can't help it. It's going to come out. It's part of me, and they come out here. I wanted to explain my story. And there is ludicrous parts to this story, including the necklace I wear around my neck, which is absolutely it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's bizarre, the whole thing. But ultimately, it's led me to this conclusion. And the thing is, I made an oath. And I don't know why I'm making an oath too, because I don't do all the entity bit, and I don't do all the gods and devils and all that. Because to me, the whole process that's going on is within us both. Anyway, we've all got good and bad. It's like a battle, it's an internal battle. So that's why it's just like sort of an allegory of that. But I came to this conclusion, and I stood in my garden one night, and I was just having a fag, and I stood up, and I just said, I don't know what the fuck you are, I don't know where you are, but look, whatever you need me to do, just show me how to do it. Whatever it is, just do it. I'll go along with it. I'll surrender. And I just surrendered, I just go along with it. And I've had communications in the bath as well. You know, I lay in the bath, and I might be having a bad day, and I'll just look out, and I'll say, your neighbour, fucking cunt, fuck off, leave me alone. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking to, it makes me feel better. I do it. It is the sign of complete insanity. But if you're going to measure my sanity against the world we live in, I'm fucking sane. I am sane, because that is insanity. And I promise you this as well. If you actually break this down, there is no intelligent being ever is going to live like that. That is not intelligence. That is stupidity. Complete stupidity. But we all still do it. And I'm willing to say what I've said tonight, retire tonight from the internet, from all of this, allow this to go across the net. I don't give a shit. Put it on your Facebook, do what you fucking want with it. Make me laughing story. You're only going to help me if you do. Seriously, you're really going to help me. What I've done tonight is a very, very clever piece of marketing. You will realise it. You will realise this. You've just got to realise how we market it. I know it sounds bizarre. It is. It's just marketing. But I've suggested something, and I'm willing to stand back and let it happen. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But if what we've seen and the way that things have moved on and the things that we've predicted are going to happen, the fact that they have happened because we're watching these recurring things, and the fact that all the information goes back to my family, that place, Cornwall itself. And I'm not going to say that Cornwall is different to anywhere else, because I actually drive, funny enough, I drove down the A38 and I want to drive a motorbike. I want to ride a motorbike down the A38. What a ride to ride a motorbike. Oh, I loved it. It's in the morning sweeping. But you sweep down this big hill, and as you come around this hill, you've got this massive hillside on your right hand side full of pine trees. You've got this side here, it's all got pine trees. You could be in Wales, you could be in Scotland. It's exactly the same.
Forestry Commissioner.
Yeah. But if you drive around this island, if you've had the pleasure to drive around this island, you will see remarkable resemblances. So if the places resemble each other, why can't the people? It's really simple, isn't it? It is really simple. Now, I've made a complete dick of myself, right? I'm willing to do this. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to do this. I'm so grateful for you, really am. Thank you for coming to see me. Thank you for supporting my family for paying to get in, because that's what you really are doing. And I thank you again for that. And maybe one day, this will happen again, but under slightly different circumstances. Because I guarantee you, if what is to happen, then you're all invited.
How much longer are you going to hang around for?
What, tonight?
Yeah. For a brownie or anything?
No. I'm going to sort that out.
I have a question about your your brother. And the reason being is because you also mentioned that your brother is the older brother.
He is.
Out of the two.
Yes.
In traditional terms, historical terms, the older brother is normally the next in line for any, and therefore, I've heard you speak about him before. He's not with you.
No.
You mention him as the antithesis of you.
He is. He's my exact opposite.
And therefore, as you have been attracting people, as you've been attracting people, is he doing the same thing? Is he an antithesis?
Yes, he
Then is he also attractive to people on these points?
He's corporate. He's corporatised, so he's very high up in the corporate world, from what I've been told. And that's all I know about him. I've never met him. He's meant to be my twin. I've got a feeling he works for the Harris Corporation, which is a massive. If you watch the Iron Man things, you see Tony Stark, and you see that it's not about Tony Stark. It's about the company he has. Well, that is the Harris Corporation. That's what they do. They build military communications. They run military networks in 160 countries. They build specialised weapons. If you want to trace the Harrises, then go back. We talked about this last night. Me and my friend Lance talked about this. The Harrises were the first to colonise America. Harrises created the Tavistock Institute. We've been involved in everything. We are at the nub of everything. My family we're not actually, the word Harris, we're actually Hart Iris. It's actually one of the original tribes, the Hart Iris.
Does your brother know about you?
I don't know. I'd be fascinated to know that actually. I'm looking at diamonds on the TV. Oh, you're joking! No, I don't know a great deal about it. All I know is that he'll see sense. He'll see sense. He will, in the end.
Is it significant then that's called Marazane?
Yeah, because it's...
I believe it means Penzance.
Marazine is the mother of John.
It's just
they corrupted the Z's. So really, Penzance should be Penzance, not Penzance. It's been corrupted. They've added a load of Z's in where there should be S's. That's Marazine. If you look at Marazine as a word, it will say Market Jew. If you look at Marazine, it means mother of John. That's what it means. There's a load of hints to this. If you look at Aleister Crowley's work, he talks about one human being standing up, saying about a vision. He gives you his vision, envisioning what he sees the world to be, and how the world will transform. And that's called the vision of the voice. But he says that the absolute, he funny enough, reverts back to the Bible, because in the Revelations of St. John, it actually talks about the man who does stand up, who we call the Antichrist. So it's like all of this stuff is everywhere. There's loads and loads of links, and it's always under John. Everything is John, which is, I find very fascinating. Shun is Welsh for John, which my Welsh friends will confirm. Shun is Welsh for John. It's a slang word for John, actually. Yeah.
Is that why you wrote the book?
Yes, it was a play on words. It's the prophecy of John. But instead, because of the problems I have on the internet with naysayers, I decided to call it the prophecy of Shun, which means the same, but I'm just playing with words. Because if you actually break it down as well, it would say the prophecy of Sion. And Sion's a really important word. So what I'm trying to do is actually, it's marketing. I'm attracting the religious, the Welsh. It's marketing. It's all it is. The internet is a marketing tool. That's what it is, isn't it? Now, if you...
Bill Hicks had some good comments on marketing.
Absolutely. Yeah, but the thing is, what you've got is you've got the most phenomenal marketing tool. Look how it works. You go onto the internet and you search for a product. The next time you go onto the internet, all the companies that supply the products you were searching for previously magically turn up on the side, on the right-hand side of your browser. You go on to Screwfix and you order something, or you look at things, all of a sudden when you're going on and you've got the moving adverts, you've got Screwfix trying to sell you things. It's a marketing tool. Every time your computer logs onto the internet, it sends all its information to the internet. I don't know if you know that. They know what browser you're using, what processor you're running. They know everything about you because your computer does that by default. And no one knows this sort of stuff. You literally, when you log on, you go, bang, that's me. Bang, that's what I'm using. So what they're doing is, it's like having a Tesco's club card. You know, it's not fucking rocket science. You go in, you buy stuff, you swipe the card, instantly your account's there. He uses that bomb roll, he uses that toothpaste. So we're hitting for adverts, for promotions about these different products. Because when you actually break down a promotion, you're actually paying more for the product. Tesco's were pulled for that, actually. They were saying they had this multi-buy, but when you actually break it down, the money you were paying for the multi-buy was more than buying the items individually. It was hilarious. It actually worked out to be 10 or 20 pence more. If you actually broke the thing in half and paid for them individually. The multi-buys were dearer. They got had for that. They got really fined for it as well.
Yeah, 2 for 1 becomes half of 1. I see that quite often.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. You know, and it is a marketing. So what I decided to do was use it against itself. And what I've done is, I've told you a story tonight that in effect is a biblical story that's existed for 2,000 years. If you actually want to go back further, this story has existed for a long, long time. It's just got different names. So all it's got, what you've been indoctrinated with, is there is a man going to come and save you. What have I told you tonight? There's a man going to save you. It's all fucking marketing.
And when
Huh? I'm 46. And when's the next Zion? When's the Zion born? 46 years before the end of the millennium. It's all there. It's marketing. It's simple marketing. If you actually read the prophecies, my missus was reading 50 Shades. Chapter 27, 6 pages in, it's unadulterated porn. Because it sells. That chapter has had more hits than any other fucking chapter, because they're reading the porn. It's marketing. It's simple. What I've done is worked out how they do things and reversed it. Exactly what I talked about with the ultimate point of power. Take it away, put a new one in, and reverse things. Turn it around. It's that simple. And if you have the power to sack the Pope, you have the power to sack the Queen of England. Yeah. The reason you've got the power to do it is because if you actually go to the Vatican, that's a sovereign state. But in the middle of that sovereign state is another one that is Templar. If you go to the City of London, you'll actually see that it's Templar insignia. Because it's not just a cross, there's an upside down cross in the shape of a fallen in that corner. Now if you go down there now, you've got to see 4. And there's a reason you'll see 4, because it's the time of John. That's what it represents, the 4, the catalyst that causes change.
It's also on the ley lines.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
From here to there.
Yeah, everywhere. They're everywhere. They're undating everywhere. I could actually be stood here today. One thing that would be absolutely fascinating is, I don't even know if you're a member of my family, because I've got so many cousins down here that
I'm a Harris, I'm my grandson from France.
Really?
His grandfather was illegitimate. And his father disappeared into Canada to the Civil War.
We need to go and talk. You look like my dad. Seriously.
My grandfather worked in the railway.
Oh no, laid away.
What?
My grandfather was taken to Canada when he was a child.
Yeah, a lot of them.
No, to visit his father. He was given first class, he was given a cabin. So just after the
Weirdest chat. This was the weirdest thing. I had this chat with my head, and I was saying to her, she said, wouldn't it be weird if one of your cousins was sat in the audience and you didn't know who they are?
Yeah, my grandmother prays Harris. There was 2 Harris, there were 3 Harris families. One was praise, one was over here, and some, I don't know what the other one was.
How fascinating.
Yeah, 3 Harrises.
And it's really interesting because she actually said that you could be talking and there's a member of your family that you've never met because of all the age differences. I would have never met my second, third, fourth cousins. I would have never met anybody because my cousin. I used to go to my auntie's house in Hale.
Right? Hale houses. That's the world.
I used to go to my auntie's house in Hale. I was about 4 or 5 years old, and I was calling her my auntie when she was my cousin. But she was about 60, 68 years old. It was ridiculous. I was a tiny little child, but she was my cousin.
There was a train driver I used to work with called John Harris. Stan Harris. And he would never say to me that he was actually part of my family for some reason. By him,
Interesting.
John, can I clear something up? Was Harris the name you were born with?
I've got 8 names. 8, sorry, 8. I can't count.
So from the people on the hill?
Yeah, I've got 8 names.
Right. But were they Harris?
Yes. Yes.
And you were given away for adoption and they were also called Harris? Or?
I wasn't adopted. I was
You
just
were
given.
Given, right.
No paperwork.
Right.
No paperwork.
Right. So they called you Harris?
I've got 8 names. Yeah, they give me 8 names altogether. 7 including myself.
Right.
Yeah, which is really weird. Why would you give a child 8 fucking names?
Is that what made you start to...
Yeah, because I didn't know what the names meant, so we needed to decode the names, which we, by part of the deed, she actually found out what they meant.
Go down your family tree and...
Well, that's mentally, yeah, it's just mental, absolutely mental, because the names are mental. They're ridiculous, aren't they? Well, some of them are ridiculous, but others, well, not, they're just names. But I was talking to Alan Wilson, who's now looking after conspiracy and all the stuff about Wales, and he kept telling me that when he was looking at the manuscripts, he kept finding groups of 8 names. And he couldn't work out what the hell was going on, so what he decided to do was actually decrypt the names, actually take them out, find out what the names mean. It turned out they were longitudes and latitudes that pointed to things, so he decided that I'm going to go off on the journey, find it. So he was digging, and he was digging things out of the ground, like a massive big silver cross he dug out of the ground, which he offered to the British Museum. The British Museum actually on BBC television said he made it in his kitchen. He's been ostracised in a big, big way, Alan Wilson. He's a lovely, lovely guy.
What's his name called? Barrett?
Barrett, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, amazing, man.
Yeah, it's really good stuff. But that's what happens. So I was talking to Alan and said, Alan, I've got this group of names. Can I explain them to you? I'll give you the names. What do you reckon? So I repeated the names to him, and he said, well, I reckon he said, I reckon about 1,000 years ago that started. But he said it could be earlier, but I would pinpoint about 1,000 years because of the stuff I've been looking into and the time periods that them names would have existed as well. So it looks like these names have been passed from my family for about 1,000 years, which is quite incredible. And I do know as well that all my family members, all the male members, were called John James Harris. All called John James Harris. I know, it's a trouble, but there is something that's very, very fascinating. I'll be quite honest with you, I'm not being rude, but could we swap telephone numbers? I'd like to talk to you right now. I've never had the chance to explore this with anyone because I've never found anyone who I could possibly explore it with. But I want to show you, what I would do is actually send you a picture of my dad because you will be absolutely amazed at how much you look like him. Seriously, you really do look like my dad. A younger version of my dad. He was a very elegant gentleman, very chivalrous. He was a chivalrous man, completely chivalrous. Sorry. But a lot of them are. That's how you. Do you know if you want to go and find Templars? If you want to find a Templar.
He was a Templar, was he?
Yes. If you, well, it was. Yeah. He was a part of other things as well. Because it's not just the Templars. There's loads of different parts of it. There's loads of.
Are there different orders of doing it?
There are different orders, but when needs to, they all come together.
How can you tell through blood type?
Pardon?
If new generations come through as rhesus negative blood type, you can't tell.
Tell what?
Blood type.
I'm not talking about blood groups. What are we talking about blood groups?
Royalty.
No, we're not.
Blood line.
They're not blue line anyway, are they?
They're all rhesus negative. So.
Are they? Have you took their blood and tested it yourself? If you want to find a Templar, if you want to know who's a Templar, the next time a bloke opens the door for you, you're probably in front of a Templar. They're chivalrous to the core. If they step aside and allow you to go first, you're generally talking to a Templar.
Yeah.
Or they're an extraction officer. Yeah, you could be an extraction officer because our ancestors, we do what our ancestors do. You know, I've got evidence of this. I was chatting to Rob and Zoe, my Welsh friends at the back there, and we were talking about real. And you remember the story I was telling about real? And I said, I've got absolute evidence that you do what your ancestors do. And they were laughing at me, the audience, and it was really quite. I said, right, well, this is the evidence, and I'll show you. I'll present some evidence on this fact. So, real is in northwest Wales. Okay, so it's a very, very top. It's what, 45 minutes from Snowdon? About
Rough-
45
roughly,
minutes?
yeah,
About an
roughly,
hour. About 45 minutes an hour from Snowdon. Right. When Henry III was King of England, he was a very good king actually, and that was John's son. And then his son was Edward I. So Henry, at that time, there was a Prince of Wales called Llewellyn, and he was a pretty good dude, no? And the Prince Llewellyn actually didn't mind being sort of subservient to Henry because he was such a decent guy. Anyway, Edward I wanted to take the throne, and what a lot of people don't know about Edward I is he spent 2 years with the Pope at the time. When he came back, all of a sudden there was a civil war. It was actually instigated by his own son against Henry III. Within this time period, in 1256, Henry was held siege in Lodge Castle to the point that people in the castle were starving to death. He was watching his own people starve around him and had to give in and create Parliament. That's what they did it for, to create Parliament. So anyway, Edward did this himself. Now Llewellyn was told on the quiet by the order that this had happened. When Edward took the throne, when Henry died, Llewellyn went, fuck off, I don't want nothing to do with you because of what you've done. Edward wanted to control the Welsh because he knew the origins of the Welsh and the Cornish mixed together. Okay? There's a lot of history about what's going on in Wales. It still lives in Wales about what happened here. Because we are one and the same people.
Cornwall is known as West Wales at one time, John, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So what he did is he decided to attack Llewellyn. Now, the first time he went into the Welsh interior with heavy infantry. Heavy infantry in the Welsh weather of the Rhondda and the valleys in bloody Wales is a ridiculous thing to do. They got bogged down. While they were getting bogged down, the Welsh would come out, boom, 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 and disappear again into the interior because they knew their home. So in the end he decided, well that didn't work, so what he did is he went to Pembrokeshire and he set sail with his fleet and he came right around with his fleet, dropping like this, all the way around to Cardigan Bay, the most westerly point of Wales. He then used the Marcher Lords along the border between Wales and England, and the Marcher Lords were a bit like mercenaries, they worked for the best paying site. They weren't meant to do that, but they did do it. So through the Marcher Lords, they then brought in a light infantry all the way up around North Wales and back down to Cardigan Bay. Basically ringed them. And then they sat and waited until their food ran out. Starved them. This is their tick, this is what they used to use all the time, starvation. Now obviously they're producing food within it, but what they did need is supply lines. Because even in them days there were supply lines of different foods coming from different parts of the island. Llewellyn had to give in, but he basically surrendered to save his people, but then the fight, the rebels, kicked up again. So Edward crushed the rebels, killed Llewellyn in the skirmish, and the rest of their rebels were pushed to northwest Wales. Then he built 15 castles around them called the Iron Ring. There was a garrison at each castle, and each castle was 1 day's walk between each one. So in 15 days he could have a full army of 15 garrisons. Rhyl is in the Iron Ring. And if you go to Rhyl, the North Welsh are the most rebellious of all the Welsh. They're only doing what their ancestors did.
Can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
Am I to assume, obviously it sounds like the Templars are going to throw.
Yes, basically.
You said it's going to happen soon.
What you've got to appreciate is the Queen has got immunity. Do you know about bodies that have just been found at Sandringham? Right, okay. Well, they found it, and obviously the Queen could be prosecuted for this, but obviously she's got immunity. She has immunity in this system, under this legality, but she doesn't have immunity from the Templars, because the Templars run outside this system.
I was going to ask you,
so she hasn't got immunity from it.
Is the Queen, or is the Queen subservient to the Pope?
Yes, very much so.
So why isn't she going at the same time as the Pope?
Because things have not got bad enough yet. Well, the thing is, what's about to happen now?
How bad would it have to be? A bit like Somalia, maybe.
Not quite that bad with the There seems to be, I've tried to work this one out, and there seems to be a very, very distinct process that's going on that seems to have its own time. It just happens when it's meant to happen. No one sort of forces this. You can't make this go quicker or slower. It just seems to go at its own pace. Because I've tried that. I've tried to gain more information about something, and I've pushed and I've pushed and I've pushed, and I've gone, I stand back, and all of a sudden, what I was after comes to me. It's like, it's saying, do not question, do not push this, just allow it to come to you when it's ready. I've been to talks, and I've had donations, when I used to do donations, and what I used to get was messages in the donation boxes, because I don't know if you know about the temple, they're not allowed to communicate electronically. They don't use telephones or emails or computers or anything like that. It's all via word of mouth or on pieces of paper. It's the oldest thing, and they've always done it. They never ever communicate electronically. They're not allowed to. It's frowned upon. So there is these transfers of information, and I was talking in Wales, and I needed some information about a book that exists on that island.
Oh, you were talking about this 2 years ago.
There's a book that exists on the island, and I needed some information. I didn't know what was in that book because at that time I hadn't spoken, I hadn't met my friend who was a monk in the Order of St John of Jerusalem only 7 years ago. He joined, give up his worldly goods. He joined, it still happens to this day. And he worked over in a room on the mount underneath by the monastery, and he used to write the sermons for the abbot. And in that room are 3 books in bulletproof cases.
Did you get to see them?
No, because you're not allowed to look at these, but they're very ancient books. There's 3 of them, and the reason I was told the 3 of them is because 2 of them are false, and one is you've got to decide what one is the right one. It's like fucking madness, you know what I mean? That's what I'm told. It's brilliant because it's been based on this. It's been based. Lance told me completely the whole myth last night. He explained it to me in piece by piece. He didn't know I was the twin. You nearly dropped through the floor when you had that.
Well, it was the last piece of information.
He needed the last piece to actually lock it all together. And the secretary said, "You're a twin, by the way." I said, "Yeah." He went, "Oh. Right, okay, yeah, that makes sense." So it's not just researchers. I've got other friends as well who've been looking at this. You know, they've been seeing this. But this book, supposedly predates the Bible. Obviously, the Mount is under parliamentary control, which is church control. That book is the most priceless artefact ever been found. But it will destroy Christianity in the blink of an eye because it tells the truth of how Christianity was created and why. The very book that can destroy them, they can't get rid of because it's priceless. How fucking ironic is that? But that's them all over, isn't it? Yeah, even though it could destroy them in a blink of an eye because of its worth, they can't get rid of it. Yeah, they can't. And that's, but again, this is all stories. I don't know because I haven't seen that book myself. I've got a funny feeling one day I'm going to get my hands on it. And when I do, you fucking not will know what's in it. You would. I wouldn't hide it. I would tell the truth. That's what I do. I tell the truth. And in the world we live in, telling the truth is an act of terrorism.
Yes.
It is. And I've met terrorists as well. I met a terrorist a little while ago.
MP, was it?
He was back in MP, yeah. Well, they are, aren't they? Yeah. They go into other countries and use terror to get their own way. Well, according to the dictionary definition, that is a fucking terrorist.
Don't even go to other countries, you go in this country.
They go in this country as well. Is there anything else?
They're ministers that follow the missions that go in first, aren't they, really? And then, yeah.
Yes, mate. Please tell me I'm wrong.
The politicians write our laws and what the loopholes we do find. If the Queen was sat, you know, what would stop them from just maintaining control and taking over?
Because the politicians don't write the laws. The church writes the laws. The politicians implement the law.
Okay, so they're the puppets.
Absolutely.
Why would they cease to be puppets if the church?
Because their power comes from the Queen itself.
From the church, isn't it?
No. How it's set up is the Queen is only the Queen because the church appointed her as the Queen.
Okay. So, if the Queen's sacked, the church is still about.
No, that's the point. That goes at the same time. The church will do this. They have to do it because it's the only thing that will save them.
The Templars going to sack the church?
Yes. Why? Why would they do that? Why would the church appoint someone who will destroy them?
So this Black Pope is in some way?
Oh, I can't tell you that because I don't know, but I've got a funny feeling he is.
I don't know.
Right. The only reason the church will appoint someone to do the job that I've got to do is because I carry amnesty in my heart. I am willing to let go of everything they've done and take them for who they are right this minute. Because holding on to what they've done and the past of what they've done is only going to cause us problems in the future because we're not allowing them to forget what they've been. The second they forget what they've been, then we move forward into a different era.
Yes.
And you have to do that through amnesty. I can naturally carry amnesty. It's one of the things I carry.
So you believe the plan intrinsically links to you?
I don't believe it. I'm telling you the story. I don't know. I can't honestly stand here and say yes, because I don't know, because this is all bits of a story that's been accumulated all through my life. And I still don't know how it's going to manifest. Like I said, I could walk away with egg on my face, but I am a fool. So it's not a problem. Or it could come true, and if it does, I don't know. I really don't know how I will react. I don't know. I don't know how, all I know is that I hold in my heart an amnesty. I don't want to see them hurt. I don't want to see any human being hurt. I want to see forgiveness, not forgiveness, forgetness. Well, I want them to, everyone just to forget what's gone on and let's start fresh. It's like a reset, if you like, and it's what was designed. My story, the prophecy of Shun, is about a 9,000 year cycle of human activity till a reset. And if I'd have had the time to finish the book, what you'll listen to tonight would have been in the book. You've actually listened to the last bit of the book. So if you read it all the way through, I'm really sorry. I just told you the last bit. But that's where the book was going. The book I'm writing is a mirror of that on there. It's the thing. What I did is I said, well, if that book exists, how does it exist? Why does it, what would be written in it? So what I've done is I've put myself in the position of writing that book. How would I deliver it to humanity? I decided to do it in fiction. It just seemed the best way for me to do it. In my book, if you were going to read further, you'd actually find out that every scion, every 9 of the scions or shuns, they've done it differently. One of them might have used the truth, another one uses times like I have of a different time and specific characters in that time. If you look at the book, there's only 5 official characters that you can actually go back to your Egyptian history and find. There's only 5 of them. But when you actually break things down, there's only 5 of anything. You just don't realise it because you don't. There's only 5 types of music, there's only 5 films. Look at the archetypes. There is archetypes and then there's obviously the list underneath the archetype. But if you look at the archetypes, there's only 5 of them. There's only ever 5. So there's 5 characters in my book that are from Egyptian history. The rest of the characters are completely made up names. One of them is an imaginary friend I had when I was a kid, he called me, by the name of Rarak. So I've tried to do what I feel is written over there, but I've tried to do it in my way. And the only way, when I was writing the very factual book, I got to about 155,000 words, and then suddenly realised the referencing would take longer than writing the book. Because that's what we require in this, we need references. Well, you can't just say that, you have to say where you said it from. Well, no, if you write a fictitious book, you don't have to do that. You can write what you want, literally. And you don't have to, if you actually read my book and you get to one chapter, there's a chapter in there and there's a code, there's a cipher at the beginning. It's a load, it's 1 to 9 with all the alphabet split up around 1 to 9. If you take that and understand what that means and go through the chapter, you will find some very, very interesting messages all the way through the book. But there is one chapter, if you realise how it's done, there's a very, very specific message wrote in secret in one of the chapters and no one's found it. And the reason you found it is you look at whoever was looking at it can't see it because they're looking at the wrong thing. They try and find something. It's simplicity. It's not literal, it's lateral. You have to kind of look at it from the side, then you get what's been done. It's really simple. But there is a complete message. The book has got loads of messages in it. They're all hidden messages. It's right in code. But it's simple to decipher. And once you decipher one bit of it, you'll start laughing because I've had a bit of a laugh. It's just, it was fun. I really enjoyed it, but it also became a very big problem. And so I stopped at chapter 27. Because it's very time embracing, because I'm not very grammatical. I'm very poor with English, and especially writing English. Yeah, I'm very poor at it. I don't understand nouns and pronouns and vowels, and I don't understand all that. So I just literally put words down and then try and work out where. Do you know the comma bit? My mate says, well, what you do is, he says, what you do is you speak it, and then when you need to take a breath, you stick a comma. Right, and that is it, isn't it? That's the rule of fun, right? Have you heard the speed I speak at sometimes? You've heard how quick I can speak. So sometimes there could be 20 odd words before a comma. Because that's what I was told to do, and I do things literally. I can't help it. You know, but the kids do that, don't they? If you tell them something, they actually do what you tell them to do because they take it literally. Well, that's where the kid comes out in me, because there is, like I said, this little kid in me. Which there is in all of us, and all you've got to do, to find your little kid, start laughing, your little kid will come out. They do, they come out to play. It's fantastic. Can we have a fact? Well, it's sort of the end now, isn't it? Oh, you look knackered, I'm knackered. You look white as a nose, mate.